All right. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jay here, and right now I'm recording this after the episode that you're about to watch or listen to, and I just wanted to come on here and give you guys an intro because I didn't really give one. I tried to, but then I kind of got stuck in the whole like I got wrapped up in what we were talking about. So, what I wanted to do is just come on, tell you a little bit about what we talked about. We did we started off talking about Deshaun Watson's 6 game suspension. And we kind of related that a little bit to the Colin Kaepernick thing. You'll see how we did that. Obviously, the Colin Kaepernick stuff happened before this podcast was started, but obviously, it was something that polarized football. I think the only thing that was similar to this, when you really had a quarterback. I mean, obviously, quarterbacks are they're super valuable, and anything that happens with them is top flight news. But it was something that was sort of on the level of this, level of exposure wise, right? And then we talk about that for a little bit. Then my uncle Chucky, and also thanks to both these guys, my grandfather, my uncle, for coming out and taking time out of their day to record. It was super fun. I had a great time. We recorded for over 4 hours. I don't know how much of that is you guys are going to see, but I know it's definitely going to be over 3 hours. I'm going to try. I may even split in episodes, but we'll see what happens. I'm editing it right now, and I just realized I didn't do an intro, so that's why I'm here. We also talked about the Heinz Field name change, and then we talked about how Steelers fans feel about it. Obviously, my uncle's a Steelers fan, and then we talked about like how I was like really young when the Eagles went from the vet to the link. I've in the years that I've been a fan, I've been a fan since I was born, but obviously you don't remember when you're fucking born, right? Like, you don't remember that. But I will say that my grandfather asked Uncle Chuck how they felt about the change from the vet to the link and the Heinz Field. If you don't know, it's Acrisure, which is a financial. It's either, I think it's a financial tech company or a medical tech company, something like that. And then I did some notes around the league, sort of rapid fire. I mean, these were a little bit more towards the end of the situation, and towards the end of the episode rather. And we talked about the Tampa Bay center Ryan Jensen injuring his left knee. We talked about Dallas losing the wide receiver James Washington to a fractured foot. 6 to 10 weeks, he's out. We also talked about the A.J. Brown contract dispute, comparing him to some of the other receivers that got long-term contracts. Then we talked about Debo Samuel signing in relation to the A.J. Brown signing. Then we did the DeAndre Hopkins fails PED test, will miss 6 months, and then from that, we also talked about Kyler Murray signing his $200 million plus contract with the study clause. So those are things we touched on towards the end. Then we talked a little bit about Eagles training camp, talked a little bit about Dick Vermeil. He said he's going into the Hall of Fame as an Eagle. He says Philadelphia is my home team. It's where I live, and I deeply identify with the community. And then Steelers extend Deontay Johnson for $36 million. Then we talk about the Steelers starting QB. Is it going to be Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, or Mitch Trubisky? Then we touch a little bit on the tragic passing of obviously Dwayne Haskins, because he was in the mix certainly for the starting job. And then this is also before, again, we recorded this. So today is Friday, August 19th. I'm hoping to have this video and this podcast out, edited down today, and then out tomorrow. And obviously today it came out, early today it came out that, and then I think it was earlier today or late last night, it came out that the NFLPA and the NFL had come to an agreement on an 11-game suspension with a $5 million fine. So this was after we had recorded. We recorded this on Sunday, August 14th, today being the 19th. It came out after we had recorded this already. So anyway, I just wanted to hop on here, do the intro real quick. Hopefully you guys enjoy this podcast. I know I had a great time doing it. Follow us on all social medias. I'll link everyone as usual in the description below. But enjoy the podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And take care. Hopefully you guys enjoy. All right. Peace. The Browns actually what they did was so when you get suspended like this, there usually is a fine that comes afterwards, and the fine is based on how much you make in a year, right? Like how much the team is paying you. So what they did is they only are paying him $700,000 this year, so that if he does get fined, the fine is so minimal, it's almost like nothing. Then he gets paid like $40 million next year.
Yeah, they backload the contract. They guaranteed the whole thing, which has never been done before. They guaranteed this whole $230 million.
Yeah.
And his salary this year is only like $1 million because they knew he was going to get fined something. Yeah. So they figured, you know what, we'll minimize it, and that way you get the most money because we'll back end the contract.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why he went there, because I think it was Miami, or no, not Miami. It was Atlanta, because he was from there, and then it was the Saints. Those were like the two front-running teams because he like grew up in the South, and I think he's from Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. And so those were like two front. He wanted to go back home, play with his family, and then the Browns just swang like from literally out of nowhere, and just said, we'll give you a fully guaranteed, and we'll stack everything so that's for you. And that's why he went to the Browns.
Well, that's a pretty good reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good business move by him, but it's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of weird for the Browns to be like. But I guess if you believe in Deshaun and he's like, outside of all the crazy stuff that he does, he's a top like 5 young quarterback in the league. Like he is. I think it was 6 games. He only played like 6 or 7 games in his rookie season, and each of those games he threw 4 touchdowns. Like he came out. He was on I think he didn't even start the first 2 games, and he was on pace to break like the rookie touchdown pass record, like to break it to smithereens. Like he was on that path. So, and then he tore his ACL, and he came back and was even better the next year. But.
Well, like I said, if you're going to be great, it's usually right out of the box.
Yeah.
If you're going to be great.
Yeah. And unfortunately he is, but he's just also a creep. He's a good player, but he's also just a huge creepo.
Yeah, I don't think I'd buy his shirt if I were a Browns fan.
Yeah.
I think there's a moral standard we need to hold our athletes to, and just can't budge from that. Yeah. I mean, if you're not going to take Kaepernick back, then you're not going to take Watson back.
Yeah, that's true. But the only sort of thing I would push back is that Kaepernick wasn't as good as Deshaun.
Yeah, I get that.
Like he played in, Kaepernick reminds you a lot of like Nick Foles. Like he had like a kind of a Cinderella run towards the end of the season, got to the Super Bowl, and then like kind of wasn't the same after that. And then he started protesting, and I mean, you shouldn't get kicked out or blackballed for protesting, which is why he won that huge, how much did they pay him? Like $50 million or something like that, or $100 million? The NFL had to pay him because they proved that there was like a text from one GM to somebody that they were like, yeah, we're not going to sign Kaepernick because of the baggage or something like that.
Yeah,
yeah. So that's crazy.
Well, you're a hero to the kids, You're a Lou Gehrig, you're a Babe Ruth, and you're a hero to the children.
Yeah. Well, like I heard too that he kind of got lost in it. Like from what I've heard is like he started protesting and sat down. Then he had that conversation with that Green Beret, and the Green Beret was like, "Hey, instead of like sitting down for the national anthem, why don't you just take a knee? Because we take a knee to give the flag to the fallen veterans." So this is kind of a good middle ground of it's where it's like you're protesting, but you're also being respectful at the same time. Like you're not just being outright disrespecting like everything. That's kind of the commonality. I forget the guy's name. He was a long snapper, and he played for Texas, and then he played for Seattle. But he was a Green Beret, and they had like a conversation, and he started kneeling. And then after that, I think like where he started that, and that's cool, the protest, but then afterwards, like he's comparing, like he had like a Netflix special where he compared the NFL to like slavery, where like guys are like walking on like a plantation, then they step off and they're in like a draft room, and people are kind of like, but then you're comparing like NFL to slavery, which is whatever, everyone has their opinion, but then you're trying to also get back into the NFL. So it's like your actions aren't really matching the statements that you're making. And so I think he did get a little lost, like or he didn't really understand like what Black Lives Matter was and what the protests were about. He just kind of needed to do something and decided he was going to protest in that way. That's from what I heard. Yeah, but
you got 100 million veterans out there that are missing fingers and legs and toes and everything else, and just don't agree with that man. You disrespect the flag.
Yeah,
especially if you've never fought for it.
Yeah, and I mean that's everyone's gonna have their opinion. Even like, I don't necessarily agree with the protests or anything, but like, or with him kneeling, right? But like, I understand why he did it, right? Like, I don't, and that's part of a protest. I don't have to agree with it, but as long as I understand like where it's coming from, then that's a protest supposed to be uncomfortable. Like, I'm supposed to not agree with what you're doing, and then be like, well, why is he doing that? And then investigate, and then sort of use my own discretion to be like, okay, that's why. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I go to a football game, see a football game.
Yeah,
I like the band and a little bit of the food. I don't want to see all this, protesting and stuff and using that as a venue, for your personal protest. I don't care for that. That's not what I spent my money for, and that's all I want to see.
Yeah,
but they use the game to get the attention because
yes, they do.
If I'm gonna go protest my cause and go stand out in front of Joe's hardware store, I'm gonna get the attention of 100 people.
Uh-huh.
I go down to Vet Stadium in Philadelphia to protest my cause. I'm going to get the attention of the 80,000 people that are walking in the door, plus the news people
TV,
that are there,
plus
TV
audience.
Anybody else. So it's not so much that it's part of the game kind of thing. It's just hey, you have a large audience. I'm going to go to you because I'm going to get my message out quicker that way.
But if everybody forgave that and said, okay, it's not a big deal, he'd be playing, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Well, so he got one message out there, and sure as hell got another message out there.
Well, I mean, I can see where. So he does the protest. He makes the owners unhappy, and he gets on the blacklist. Totally get that. That's not right. That's not right. Yeah. You don't agree with the guy. You don't play the behind the scenes, game and, do the whole blacklist thing. If you play the game based on your ability, you play the game based on your ability. The NFL is any sport is totally willing to forgive you for whatever you've done as long as you produce on the field. The Hall of Fame in any sport is not full of saints.
Yeah.
They're all people, human beings, faults, done stupid things, but as long as you can produce on the field, they're willing to forgive anything. And so when things dragged out with Kaepernick for a while, then I start saying, okay, how much is this blacklisting and how much of this is you're not going to be able to produce? Because he was a good quarterback.
Yeah.
He wasn't top 5, top 10.
Yeah.
He worked well in the system, I can hear myself cutting out, sorry.
Yeah. You're good.
But I can see it. But then when he got to the point where he got his award and then they were going to give him tryouts, and then it came the day of the tryout, and then he changed the terms of the tryout. It's like, okay, now I'm not buying it. Now it's about you, because now we've crossed the path of you're past this blacklist thing. Now it's go back to your ability. We give you an opportunity to showcase your ability, and you don't want to do it on this stage. You want to do it on that stage, and you want to control the message, and you want to control what's perceived, and you don't want to play with those guys. You want to play with these guys, and now it's, okay, now I'm doubting you have the ability to play because you're not willing to showcase it.
Okay.
So, so him not playing now is so not, this conspiracy behind the scenes. Now it's, he can't play. He doesn't have the ability to play. If you were producing like Deshaun Jackson or my favorite player of all time, Ray Lewis, they were maybe willing to forgive anything. And they'll pay you money, Michael Vick, and they'll pay you, and you'll come, and you'll play, Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
I'm a Steelers homie. Ben early years, he messed up.
Yeah.
He got the message.
Mm-hmm.
He straightened out his course, but
it was rocky there for a few years after he got drafted.
but how much are you willing to put in for it? And what point is it diminishing returns?
Yeah, and that's also too, like with Kaepernick, I felt like you're talking about diminishing returns. It's like there's certain things the NFL is just going to railroad over and not care about. Like it's not the NFL is a business, and that's one of the first things you'll hear any retired guy talk about. Like when they talk to the young kids, they're like, the NFL is a business at the end of the day, and whatever you do, like however you feed your family, right? If this is how you're going to do it, just understand that you're playing their game or in their league, and these are the stipulations, and they're just going to railroad it. And look at Henry Ruggs too, is another example. Like, in no way is going 150 miles an hour and then killing a girl and her dog. If he somehow, I don't think he will. I think it's like 50 years minimum in Vegas if you hit somebody driving drunk. If he's able to skate on that for some reason, or he's not able to do like 50 years, if he goes to a tryout and he balls out, it's really hard for me to be like, it's really hard for a team not to be like, okay, this guy's still got 4.2 speed. Are we just willing to just bring him on? And like I think that they are, like, the NFL is about bottom lines, and if you don't affect their bottom line, they're willing to forgive that. I think in a lot of ways.
I think it's really difficult for somebody to have to come back from that too.
No, it is.
That's going to play on them.
Yeah,
I don't think that 4.2 speed, whatever it is going to exist anymore. Are my fans going to accept me back? I mean, I got drunk and killed this young lady. If I made a better decision for myself, she'd be alive, and everybody feels that.
Yeah,
and he feels it. He's a human being.
Yeah,
he don't want to do that. He's going to have to answer for that one day. So
yeah,
that plays on you. I don't think you get by that 100%.
Yeah, I think personally you don't. Yeah,
I think we're all. I really don't think anybody's that cold. Well, and I know I said that, and I'm going to have to retract 20% of it because we have our Hitlers and Stalins and people like that out there, and it just they are
those are like
Putin, and they are
like
cold, man. I mean,
what is that called? What was the enemy
Ice Cubes
in DC? It was like the Justice League, and then it was the League of what?
Oh, the
I don't want to say League of Doom. It was like the
Legion. Was it Legion of Doom?
Legion of Doom. Yeah, that's what those guys
Something
are
like that. Yeah,
like they're not the regular like supervillains. Those are guys that are like top tier.
Top tier.
Oh.
Yeah, those are like the Hall of Fame supervillains.
Those are like the alpha.
Villains Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they're in the Villains Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been recording now for like 15 minutes. So, do you think we should do the intro?
Yeah, that's a pretty good intro. We kind of
sure, why not?
there it again.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Fly Eagles Fly podcast. Today we got Uncle Chuck in the flesh. Last time, Zach was reading off your list for the Hall of Fame thing.
Ah, yes.
I don't know if you listened to that pod, but it was awesome. It was really cool, and he got through it just to the end, and he couldn't like pronounce the kicker's name. That's just that's all the way. He got straight through it, plowed through it. And then at the very end, we were stopping, like, oh, look, I'll just throw some kickers in there. He's like, I can't read this.
I totally forget who I said.
He said there was like, we looked at it, and it was just like a C, and then it was just like a line that squiggled. We're like, I don't know what that is either, bro. I can't. Some kicker or punter or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no
think about that one.
Yeah.
Oh, no. What are you talking about?
When we did the Hall of Fame team, like, we all drafted
greatest of all time teams.
Yeah, Ray Guy.
Yeah, it was a punter, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was a kicker. We all had like Justin Tucker because I don't know.
And me, I'd have to go old school. I'd have to.
The Justin Tucker, Vanateri is something he's still playing today.
Vanateri.
Yeah,
absolutely frantic. And I brought up the days of yore and
some of the barefoot kickers.
Yeah.
What is it? The 60s and 70s.
That was Tony Franklin. He was
Tony
barefoot
Franklin.
kicker. Yeah. And it was Humphrey with the brick toe.
And Joe Danella. Joe the Toe Danella.
Lou Groza, Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
Lou the Toe Groza. Pat Summerall. Okay, was that a kicker?
Yeah, that's old school. See. What?
toe.
Pat Summerall played football? I thought he was just a commentator. Wow.
New York Giants. He took over for Ben Agajanian, Mr. Automatic, in the 40s and the 50s with the New York Giants.
What was the one guy? His name was like automatic. His name was like automatic like that, but they would say it with his last name. It was like automatic something. I don't know. I wish I could remember. I heard about it. I think it was like a 30 for 30. I think it was on Barefoot Kickers actually too. And his last name was like super long. I think it was like Greek or something like that.
Agajanian? Didn't I just say
something like that?
I mean, that's a pretty long name.
Yeah, I forget what they called him, but it was like he was a kicker or like a punter or something like that. But
Lou Groza came from Wilkes-Barre, and he was a miner. His father's was miner. He was a miner, and that was a way to get out of there. He was a kicker with his high school team, and they gave him a free college scholarship, I believe, to Pittsburgh. No, Pittsburgh or Penn State, and it was a local college, and the Cleveland Browns picked him up, and I don't think he ever missed a field goal. I mean,
what a guy!
This guy, yeah. And the Browns had runners like Marion Motley before Jim Brown, and of course they had Jim Brown in the 50s, but Lou the Toe played about 20 years. I'll have to look him up, and he was just called the Toe.
The Toe Groza. That's such a crazy name.
Groza.
The brick toe.
Lou Groza. Yeah.
Who was the brick toe?
Humphrey. Guy's name was Humphrey. He kicked a 62-yard field goal, and I think somebody beat that since then. Was there did O'Brien kick a 63?
I think it was Tucker. Justin Tucker.
Yeah, Tucker did, and I think Prater from the Broncos.
Yeah, Matt Prater, yeah.
Matt Prater.
They kick a 63?
Yeah.
Anybody kick a 70?
No, I don't think anybody's kicked a 70. I think somebody's kicked a 65, I think.
65?
I think it was Justin Tucker.
Justin Tucker.
There was another incredibly high one. Yeah, 65.
Yeah, that dude.
Crazy.
I think Justin Tucker might have actually hit a 70 because he was mentioned like in the.
I think I heard that term, 70.
Let me see here.
And it was recent.
Keep talking. I'm just going to fact check. That's all.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just going to run over the intro, the heck.
God.
Yeah, it's cool. It's all right.
Bobby Walson was the kicker for the Eagles for many years.
66.
He's also their
66?
wide receiver. Who?
Justin Tucker's longest is 66.
66. Wow.
Jesus. Yeah.
That's a long field goal.
I mean, all right, so you got your 50 yards from midfield to goal line.
Yeah.
10 yards to the goalpost. So there's your 60.
Yeah.
I mean, you're kicking from past that. You got you're 8 yards back.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're standing on the other side of the field.
Yes.
And you're booting it. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's nuts.
Right.
And then you know what he does? Justin Tucker is actually an avid. I think he sings for his church, right? Did you ever hear him sing? He sings like an opera singer. Like the dude he's like what do they call it? Like a thespian. Like he just does all these things. Like he's a good actor too. Like people were like, oh yeah, he was in the drama club in high school, and then he would go and just hit bombs from 70 miles an hour, like 70 yards out. And now he just signed. I think he just signed an extension too for 3 years, $24 million or something like that.
Yeah, because
imagine making $12 million a year as a kicker. You don't have to do anything. Like literally, all you got to do is go out there and just. Unless you're in like you're either the most loved or most hated person at a given time outside of the
and that can change depending on your kick.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah, or I think it was Case Keenum recently was showing just how good it is to be a backup quarterback.
Oh yeah,
like it's so easy. Like you go out there with like a bunch of young guys, and the young guys are just having fun. You're throwing them, right? And you just got to make them look good. So you got to put the ball where the ball needs to be. You could do that if you've been in the league 12 years. You can do that 10 out of 10 times. Just put the ball in front of them, let them grab it, and then you just sit on the sidelines, just chill.
Yeah.
You get paid like $10 million, right? And just chill on the sidelines, drink some Gatorade. It's just a vibe. And then it's always fun until it's not anymore. Yeah. Until like you see like Josh Allen, like God forbid, just rip apart his knee, and you're like, oh shit. Now I got to go in here and try to win this division because the bettors now have a stake in it, and the team is now like, we're going to win this division. So now we got to step up and try to beat Josh Allen.
Yeah. Who's the backup in Kansas City?
I don't know.
See, and
I
of
wish
course
I knew his
now
name.
I can't go home because he's from Berks County.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's from Berks County. Oh my God, he was a high draft pick, didn't work out, and he signed.
Is it Matt something?
Yeah, see,
The backup for Penn State.
no backup for Kansas City.
Oh, okay. See,
Yeah.
Thank God for Google.
Yeah. Right. Seriously.
didn't he play for the Patriots?
Chad Henne.
Chad Henne.
Chad Henne, big touted pick. He didn't work out as a starting QB, and he
played for
kind
the
of bounced
Jets?
around as a. Now he's bounced around as a backup, and he's been the backup in Kansas City for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And when he's been called on, he's done well.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where he wasn't going to have anything for a career. Now he's with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been to Super Bowls. He's got a ring. And it's like and all they need is a couple times a year. Go play,
that's it. Just,
hold down the fort, make us win. Boom.
just make sure we don't lose. Just right the ship until Pat gets back, and then
Yeah.
you just vibe again.
So who's the backup GOAT?
Nick Foles. It's got to be Nick Foles. I mean, it can't be. I don't
stand
think
up
it's anybody
there.
else.
And how about Earl Morrow? Consistency? I don't think this guy ever lost a game. He won the entire season with the Baltimore Colts. Then when they played the Jets in the Super Bowl, they figured, we'll give it back to John Unitas. They lost a game. Would Earl Morrow have won that game?
We get chemistry with the guys.
Or an opinion? I'd
don't
say
know.
yes.
I kind of the guy who's always been just good enough, but not quite good enough. The guy that gets bounced around, like he's been in the leagues for like 20 years, played for every team, that kind of thing. Those are the guys. They always find a job. They're never good enough to really win the big one, but they always have a job.
Yeah, it's like Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Back in the 80s, it was Steve DeBerg. He was really good. We gave him some really good teams. He played for the Chiefs, before Montana went there. But it was Steve DeBerg was one of those guys that, like, he's got a uniform collection, like everybody in the league. And
I don't think the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles have never beat Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
Every time I saw that bearded wonder on the field, I knew we were going to lose.
Right?
I
don't know what was up with that. Like,
we're going to play this guy down, and he just picks you apart.
Yeah, like
it's Fitzmagic.
Oh my God! Like it's always Fitzmagic in Philadelphia for some reason. Like we went to play Miami a few years ago.
Yeah,
we were on an upswing. We won like 2 games in a row. Where like Miami's like kind of a get right game. Like you could just blow them out, and they beat us with that. You ever see that damn fake punt that they put, and the guy just shuffle passes this thing like 10 yards, and it just hits this guy in the chest? I was like, this is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Devontae Parker played like Randy Moss that game. Like he was jumping over people and grabbing stuff one-handed and tiptoeing him. I was like, why do these guys always? I feel like it's always the Eagles, right? Or I don't know if it's different for the Steelers, but like it's always the Eagles that teams are just like they'll be like, oh, the Eagles just go in there. They're a team that's better, and they'll go and beat them. And then we either just beat them, right, by like a field goal or like a last-second drive, or they blow us out. There's no like in between. Or when Deshaun Jackson, like the year after he got traded to the Redskins, he came back and Fitzpatrick hit him twice down the middle of the field, like back-to-back 50-yard touchdown passes. I was like, this is insane. I don't understand. I don't get it. I really don't get it. You know who else too? Talking about like bouncing around. He retired last year. He played for the Eagles. His name was Josh something. He played for when he got in, he played for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I was trying to think of him too.
Yeah, damn it.
But he was another one that bounced around.
Yeah, he always had a job. He was like he coached his son's team. Like I think it was in like North Carolina or something like that. He would play Eagles games and then fly back to like where he lived in like in the Carolinas or down south and coach his son's like little league team.
And his brother used to play too. His brother was a quarterback too.
Yeah, his name was Josh something. I forget his name, but
go back. This is bad. Go to Google again.
I'm thinking of a B, Bowen.
I want to. At first, I thought it was Josh Rosen, but like no,
Josh McCown. Josh McCown.
Yeah.
I follow him on Instagram. He has a daughter that's like in high school. And they were like, they had like a day. It was called like Josh something day. Josh, was it McCowan? Is that his name? Mm-hmm. Right. And his daughter and I think all of her teammates at like the field hockey team could wear one of his jerseys. Like that's how many teams he had been to. He'd been to like 15 teams, and they all wore one of his jerseys to school. I was like, damn, that must be so cool though to have that many like official jerseys.
But the weird thing is, like you were saying about, best job in the world is the backup QB.
Yeah.
It's like when the careers are over,
Yeah.
the QBs that get coaching jobs,
Yeah.
it's not the starting QBs. And I don't know, maybe it's because, if you're successful, you get a job, you get a job as a commentator, or, you do this or that.
Yeah.
But the ones that turn into coaches are the backups.
Yeah.
Like, and they're, a lot of times they turn out to be pretty good, you know.
It was interesting too, because actually I saw there was a similar conversation I was watching these guys have on a podcast, and they were saying like there's something about like having to really grind to get onto like a team versus like LeBron is never going to be able to teach somebody how to play basketball because he's the most genetically gifted basketball player outside of Wilt Chamberlain ever. Like he's so big, his body is built perfectly for basketball. And then like what's the other Olympian's name? The swimmer. Michael Phelps is never going to be able to like teach somebody how to properly swim because his top half is longer than he's built like a fish. Like his legs belong to somebody that's like 5'8" and his torso is like 6'3". Like he's built like a fish, and he has like a 7 foot wingspan. So it's like the people that are genetically gifted are like, oh well, you just swim normally and you're just faster than everyone. That's not really, But then when you take people like Brady might be a great coach because Brady was like 6th round draft pick, But he's a little bit crazy though. Like he's a little bit on the edge of like obsessive, so maybe not. But a lot of the guys that make A lot of the guys that make good coaches are the guys that like had to get the fundamentals down and they know how to teach the fundamentals, or like Steve Kerr in basketball, or Andy Reid, right? Was not a great lineman, but like he just worked with Brett Favre and worked with all these great quarterbacks. So he just knows how to do that. Who else? Nick Saban was a defensive back in college and now has like consistently has like the best defensive backs because he knows how to teach them like the small little things, right, on top of their physical gifts. So I think you're right about that. I think a lot of the guys who are second go and be really successful coaches.
And Chuck Noll, I think he was O-line for Cleveland, and he was pretty good. He had several All-Pro years. I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame though.
So
he had a fist fight with Chuck Bednarik in the locker room after a game one time.
He's not as a player. I don't think he's in the Hall.
But no, he's a hell of a coach.
And a lot of that, and a lot of that is like, you were saying the grind. You got to be the student of the game, and you're not playing, but you're on the sideline, and you're watching the game. And when that guy comes off the field, if he's having a bad game, all the coaches are there, but the O-line coach or the offensive coordinator, he's got more than just you. And I know the quarterback is the focus of it, but the quarterback having that bad game comes off the field. First person they're talking to is the backup.
Yeah,
and the backup's like, "Hey, this is what I saw," or "This is what I see you doing," or "This is what I see them doing." He's the eyes and ears. He's that detached on the sideline, so he's kind of that in between QB and coach kind of thing. Which, and a lot of your backups are like that, because they know, hey, he gets hurt, he's having a crap game, I got to go in, so I have to know what they're doing. So
I agree.
The guys on the sideline got to play that, coach and player role both ways.
And the backup is watching every play.
Mm-hmm.
Every play, he's just sitting there right next to the head coach, watching every single play.
Yeah, because the last thing you want to have happen is the guy that you're the backup for gets hurt and they turn around to throw you in the game, and you're back in the locker room, grabbing a hot dog, or
just
tying your shoe. You're like, oh, what? I'm on. What? I'm on. Wait a minute.
Honorable mention: somebody who was actually player coach, but was actually the star player, Bill Russell. I know you wanted to talk about him.
Oh my goodness!
Bill Russell was like an anomaly. Like, how are you the best player on the court and also the coach? That it should be illegal, really. Like, I don't think that's crazy.
Dan Reeves was also a player coach.
Yeah,
for the Cowboys.
Yeah,
he was a tight end and he was also assistant coach.
Yeah,
this guy suited up for every game. I think for 1 or 2 years until Dan Reeves went with coaching. Dan Reeves was a player coach. He's a person I thought about. Yeah, but this Bill Russell, I just happened to be watching Discovery or one of those shows the other night, and I was upstairs in my room, and they were honoring Bill Russell, and he's got 11 championship rings.
Yeah, it's a record.
80 games a season, plus the playoffs, and there's, what do you get, a timeout, you get a jump ball, maybe a penalty shot, but you're running your buns off for 48 minutes.
Yeah.
Try that.
Yeah.
Anybody, just try that. No basket, don't bother shooting the basket. Just run back and forth on a basketball court for 48 minutes. Every 12 minutes, you can take a minute off or two, okay? And then just keep doing that. And then tell me how you feel at the end of that. This is 80 times a year, not including your preseason, okay, and not including playoffs. If you're lucky enough to get, to earn your way into the playoffs, and you get to break your bones for another 48 minutes, and that buys you another playoff game. You get to do the same thing all over again, And I think that's much more difficult than 7 Super Bowls, okay. And I think it's more difficult than 23 championships for Serena Williams, because I was talking to Zach, and he talked to me about what's it like to win a championship in tennis, and every game is a playoff. There's no season. Every game is a playoff. So you'll play 36 games, and you're a champion. So every 36 games, you're a champion. So 36 times 23, and if you do the math, 25% of 36 is 9. So you get, 90 games? You're a champion. Okay. 7 Super Bowls, a lot more games than that. 11 basketball championships? Oh, my God. And it's never done in baseball. You can go back to the old New York Yankees, and
what do they have, like 175 or something like that?
They're going to win
stupid,
it.
Yeah.
They're going to go 100-plus victories every season under Casey Stengel and Joe Torre in the late 90s. What did they win, 3 World Series under Joe Torre? I mean, that's 156 games a year plus your playoffs. And I do like football. Your playoffs are do or die. You have a bad game, goodbye, go home. You can't have a bad game. That's what I love about football. It's just 17 games a season now. Last year, I think, was the first year for 17 games.
Yeah.
Oh, and flashback to Mr. Automatic and the kickers and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 different eras. When the goalpost was on the goal line.
Oh, my God. That was the worst.
The post was part of the field.
Well, you get 10 yards off.
Right.
50-yard line is 50 yards. It's not 60. And add the 10. So it was a little easier back in the day to kick a 50-yard field goal than it is today when they moved the goalpost in the back. That's an additional 10 yards. So there has to be 2 different eras to compare there when you're comparing the length of a kick. So that 66 yards is actually 76, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, also
like
what
we're saying,
I would say like you add like a 5 yards, because doesn't it curve? It curves. It's actually over like the middle.
Oh, okay. All right. So it curves over the middle. So your 66 yards is actually 71.
About that, yeah.
And then back in the day, a 66-yarder would have been
66 yards, yeah.
Yeah, from the 44-yard line of the opposite field.
Yeah.
And then today that would have to be from the 41-yard line of the opposite field. So it's back in the day it was 41 yards from the opposite field, right? Because it was 5 years more, 5 yards more, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there has to be 2 different eras to that. But I'll tell you what, a 66-yard field goal is pretty damn long in anybody's field. I don't care where the goalpost is.
Yeah.
That's just hanging up there. And I don't know whether this was an indoor field goal. Is that a little different than an outdoor field goal? If the windsock's hanging, it's not. If the windsock is moving one way or the other, then it is. Because that ball has to stay up there, and the momentum has to keep flying toward toward that goal. That takes a lot of leg to do that.
Well, and I think he was at Baltimore, so it was outside. I think it was out Baltimore in December, so it's like kicking a rock.
Right, yeah. Right, and Ray Guy had to kick it over a couple of times because he hit the superstructure of an indoor stadium.
Yeah.
So
it's nuts.
Yeah, so he had to back off a little bit on an indoor stadium. Then when Jerry Jones built his stadium, they were hitting the TV and they were hitting the communications equipment up there. And so I don't know what they do about that. You re-kick or is it a legal kick? It bounces off of that and goes out of bounds. You get a penalty for that.
Well, there was a Thanksgiving game where the Cowboys kicked off, and then the team ran it in for a touchdown, but it hit the jumbotron, and they had to kick it over again.
Oh.
I'd be so pissed if I was that team. I don't even know who it was, but I was like, "You're trying to take away a tutty because I hit this is your mess up, not ours." But it didn't even it wasn't like it hit and then it shot straight down.
Yeah,
it grazed. It went, it barely grazed it. You saw a bit of dust fly off and then it went down.
I was watching a college game last night, and this referee is going to have nightmares for the rest of his life.
Yeah, a lot of.
It was a tie. Okay. They're 3 points down. The receiver. I forget who I watched the college game. I think it was Oregon and Iowa or something like that. And
two big.
The receiving team is 3 points down. Okay, there's 18 seconds to go in the game. Okay, he takes it on the 2-yard line and ran it all the way in for a touchdown. Ref threw a flag. Okay, and he flagged somebody for a block in the back. And the stadium damn near emptied out to hang this guy. I think I would let that one go. You know what I mean? I said, and when they replayed it, he touched him in the back. He was nowhere near the tackle. There was no tackle. He didn't deflect him off the tackle. It was on the other side of the field, and there's no rubber band on this once you make the call. Very few times can you pick up flag. All right, and the receiving team lost this game when they won the game. And I said, "Oh man, this referee's got to quit. He's got to hang it up and jump off a bridge or something. He's never going to be the same again."
Yeah,
the racket that went on in the stands, and this was a game. This was in the game in the days of yore, 2022 years ago. And I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "This guy can't be refereeing any more games." I said.
Yeah, or it's like when the Eagles get a bad call and you see they pan to the fans on purpose. I'm like, just read the room, bro.
Oh.
If it's not that big, just kind of let it rock. If the Eagles are playing in Denver, then throw the flag, whatever. But if you're playing in the link, and it's cold, people are freezing their balls off to watch. Read the room, boss. Let's let it rock. Just if it's not that serious, not egregious, just let it go.
Yeah.
But you know who else though? The referee that with the no call in during the Rams game. Remember when that guy Nickel Roby-Coleman, when he purposefully just ran, he knew he wasn't going to get he busted the coverage and he knew he wasn't going to get to the guy to stop him from running into the touchdown.
Oh, the Rams Saints game.
The Rams Saints game.
Where he took out that receiver. Yeah,
he leveled him. I mean he leveled him. He ran in, led with the head, and just blew up this receiver, and the ball's still in the air the whole time. Right, he leveled him, and the ball flies out of bounds, and the ref didn't throw a flag, and the Saints lost that game. That was a touchdown pass. If Breeze puts it on him, that's a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
And he walks into the end zone, and then it was a no call, and then Saints fans were all up in arms about it.
A few years ago, the Eagles won a game on LaShawn Jackson. Said, "Come on, kick it to me."
Oh, Deshaun, miracle at the Meadowlands.
Kick it to me, and everybody's yeah. So they kicked it to him, and he ran it all the way back. I was saying no flag. I'm looking there, no flag. Yeah. And there wasn't any flag. Yeah. If there were a flag, I think LaShawn Jackson would have killed the killed the ref.
We would have brought him back though. We just talked about bringing people back after a thing. If he would have killed that referee, Eagles would have got him off. We would have got him back. Probably extended him after that because you have to beat the Giants. You have to. I mean, if you're Eagles, like you have to beat the Giants in the Meadowlands now at this point.
Oh,
And the rebuilding, you have to beat them.
There was never any blowouts. As a kid, I used to go to New York, to see the Giants and Eagles play at the Polo Grounds. And now it's a Section 8 housing unit called the Polo Grounds today.
Oh, nice.
But I used to watch our games at the Polo Grounds. And Jim Cat Cabbage and Andy Robustelli and Y.A. Tittle and Frank Gifford and all them guys. And, I went to New York to see those games. There was just blood on the field. They were
gladiator sports.
Oh, my God. They were that's why there's no defensive highlights of games like that, except for that huge hit that Bednarik put on Gifford. I don't know why that's played up the way it is, because even Frank said it was a clean hit. Years later.
Because if you watch that play, like Gifford's there, he gets hit, he hits the ground, and you can almost see him deflating, like he just goes flat, like to the ground. It's like and you sit there, you watch that clip, and you look at that, and you're like, oh, he's dead. Oh, he's gone. Like, I know Frank Gifford lived, but you look at the clip and you go, no. He is not getting up from that.
And he came back.
Yeah.
I it really felt good for the guy to get up from that. It took a year off, really rang his bell, and he actually came back. And Chuck Bednarik, the picture shows him standing over him, celebrating, and he was in front of him. Gifford was in back of him. He was celebrating because they won the playoff game against the Giants. They moved on to play the Packers in the championship game that year, and they beat the Packers.
Yeah.
And that's what Bednarik was celebrating.
Bro. Yeah. You know what we're talking about, like how they don't have any like highlights defensively. I don't think legally they could play those. I think like some of that is like manslaughter, right?
Oh,
like,
God.
Yeah, it's like abuse.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing back in the 70s. Mel Blount for the Steelers. Sorry, Steelers homer. Sorry, I'll self-admit it.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing of give the receiver 5 yards and contact and all that kind of stuff. That's because of Mel Blount. Mel Blount and guys, Night Train Lane. They go guys like that. They would kill you. You were getting smashed before the ball's up in the air, and you're getting murdered on the field.
Yeah.
If you were a receiver in the 70s and you caught balls, you were tough. Because the safeties and corners were literally beating the hell out of you.
Yeah.
And then they changed the rules because these receivers were like, I'm going to be out of the league in like 5 years if you don't do something.
Receivers are like running backs now.
And the owners are like, we're paying you a ton of money. We need to protect you. It's kind of like they changed the rules for the quarterbacks. Well, they changed the rules for the receivers in the 70s because of these hard-hitting defenses.
Yeah.
We're just murdering these wide receivers. Wide receivers that big around, I'm going to hit you full speed. It's like the whole John Lynch thing. John Lynch is my favorite players. He would always say, he's like, yep, if I'm tackling you, I'm not tackling you. I'm tackling 10 yards over, like past you.
Yeah,
he would go through you.
Going through you, yeah.
Every time he would hit a guy, the guy would remember it. And, and he was a throwback. That's how everybody played in the 70s.
All these guys that we talked about, the greatest defensive people, and then you got to go back to get the greatest of them.
Yeah.
And these are the people that hit Jim Brown.
Yeah, and Jim Brown was...
These are Gino Marchettis and the Robustellis and the Bednariks, and these are the people that hit Jim Brown. And a wild man, Norm Wileys, and all of this stuff. Yeah. They give up their bodies to hit this guy.
Yeah,
and for him to last 8 years, that's why I give him number one running back. This guy lasted 8 years, walked off the field, and into Hollywood. And
he's a handsome guy.
I'm sorry, man, nobody did that.
Yeah,
Marion Motley didn't do that. Steve Van Buren got beat up so bad in 1953 he had to quit. He just got too many broken legs and ribs and stuff and clotheslines. And when they come out with a face guard, Tommy McDonald wouldn't wear the face guard because that's what they used to tackle you with.
It's a handle.
It's a face handle.
Yeah.
Until they made the rule. There was wrench necks and stuff. That's why there's no defensive highlights. They did some really dumb stuff in making rules. And the blunt rule, the 5-yard chuck rule, is what they call it. And they do call it the blunt rule. Because he would hold up the receivers, take away the passing game, Okay, the guys up front are going to take away the running game. You won the game. But they're going to take away your passing game and your running brain. They're doing the same thing. But they didn't take it away from Jim Brown. Oh. And he ran through all of that for 8 years.
You know what else?
And that's just crazy.
You know what else is a big victory for Jim Brown is the fact that he was still attractive after he went through the NFL.
Physically attractive.
Yeah, like yes. Girls were still like, oh my God, Jim Brown. Like even in the 80s, like the stereotypical football guy role was like Sloth from the Goonies. They were like, you fit that you look just like him. Like your eyes down here and you're like your head's all messed up and you got like big shoulders. Yeah. Like, but Jim Brown was like in soap operas and stuff.
Yeah, Jim Brown.
Like, yeah. And like westerns, he was like like with the you know what I mean? So that was a big win for Jim Brown and just the football community in general. Because like even now, guys will go in like who are some of like Nate Burleson's on TV now. Played for the Giants, Hall of Famer. What's his name? He played for the Giants. He's on Good Morning America.
Oh, Strahan.
Geez.
Michael Strahan. Michael Strahan.
He's in good
right?
shape. Yeah, look at him.
Yeah. Did you ever see his finger?
And he had to try to get through John Runyon, you know, twice a year. Yeah. And I'm expecting John Runyon to go into the Hall of Fame because he didn't do it.
He's in the Ring of Fame or the Eagles Hall of Fame.
Jim Brown was basically the start of the whole life after football.
Yeah.
You know, these guys played football. They weren't making a living and doing it. You know, they had real jobs or whatever, and you know, you retired, you went and worked, you know, wherever, and you know, he was the guy who was like, I'm going to go do this now because I'm done doing football. I'm going to do that. And we're like, whoa, you can do that, and then that was the whole, you know, that
Jim Brown
led the way for it.
Jim Brown got $300,000 for the Dirty Dozen, and if you see that movie, you know, when he did with Lee Marvin and you know the rest of that.
Charles Bronson, Telly Savalas. Sorry, movie.
Bronson, Bronson, and he did well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
he did a great job playing with those guys. That big guy Cheyenne, you know, Brody, whatever his name was, Bodie, you know, and Telly Savalas. You know, Telly Savalas plays a great nutbag. You know, and all these guys together in this Dirty Dozen. You know, the worst military criminals out there are sent on a special mission. And if you do this, you know, we're going to forgive all you've done in the military. Yeah. Well, I think there was
the original Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I actually watched Dirty Dozen the other day. I had no idea I was going to be. The acting in that is like, it's amazing. Well,
he did his
just to know that you did it back in the day, like all the, you can't hear anything. First of all, like you have to turn my TV's at like 90.
Yeah.
Trying to hear these people because the mics aren't great, right? They're just talking like this. That's what they sound like. They're like, yeah, we're going to send them out there on special mission, you know what I mean? And you're like, what is he saying? What is this colonel like saying something? And then like when they get into like the cars and they're driving and like the guy's like turning the wheel and they're going around a turn and he hasn't turned the wheel once. You're like, dude, you gotta follow the road here.
Yeah. Scenery in the background is moving with the Jeep stop.
And he's like, and the car is like turning and going around these big. You're like, I don't know if that's
And Jim did his own running in that movie.
Oh wow!
And he was in that kind of shape. Yeah, was in that kind of shape to do his own running in that movie. And
who's going to double for that? I mean, it's Jim Brown.
I know,
one of the greatest runners.
Yeah,
of
we
all
need
time.
you to run across this field and make it look good.
Right.
That's what he does.
Right. But 8 years, 14 games a season, Mr. Suicide, and he's got what 5 championships, and they weren't Super Bowls. But there were 5 NFL championships. Otto Graham has got 7 NFL championships, as many Super Bowls as Tom Brady has. Yeah. So they're still arguing who was the best quarterback.
Yeah.
But, you got to give it to Brady because all the rest of the stats that go along with it, and then played more games.
And the people he played against.
Yeah, it's a different game. I mean, I get it. There was football before 1960.
Yes.
6.
Yes.
I get it. And, I give credit where it's due. Yeah, they won the championship, but man, it's a different game nowadays.
Like now everyone is like Drago from Rocky, right? Like everyone from a kid is like molded to be this like superstar in like the NFL. Like it's nuts. It's kind of crazy. Like I was watching, I think it was like 60 Minutes or something like that, or no, Hard Knocks. That's what I was watching. and like we're watching. Like, have you guys ever been in an ice bath?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I know what it's like. A similar situation, but yeah.
Have you been in an ice bath?
I don't know, an ice
Like
box?
an ice bath.
An ice box. Box full of ice? No.
Bathtub full of ice.
Bathtub full of ice.
Bathtub full of ice.
Oh, a bathtub full of ice. No, I've seen that.
Yeah.
No thanks.
So I've been in an ice bath. It sucks. Like you're mentally just trying to get through the time that you have to spend in here so that your body feels good. So like you're in there, what, 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
Oh, 20 minutes in that?
Seconds. Yeah, like, well, that's
seconds for me.
Yeah, well, like you just got to sit in there, or probably like 15, maybe not 20, but you just sit in it, and it's supposed to be good for your body. It's supposed to like reduce inflammation.
Well,
and
wait
stuff.
a minute. In the ocean, at a 55-degree ocean, you're in hypothermia in 3 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
so how can you not be in an ice box?
I don't know how it works. I don't know, but I guess you're not like going into it like all the way. So maybe it's like 10, 15 minutes you're in. Right, you're in like, and it's after a workout too, like, and you're not like,
well, your head's out of the water, of course.
Yeah, like you're not putting your head in the water. You're just kind of sitting.
Oh, yeah,
yeah, and you're just focused on the amount of time that you could stay in that thing, right? And maybe it's not 15 minutes. Maybe it felt like it was 15 minutes. Maybe it was just like 5, but like you're just mentally just trying to get through it. Like that's all you're doing. You're just like, oh my God, please, I just want to get the fuck out of here. I want to get out of here. I want to get out of here. That's all you're thinking about. And then I'm watching Hard Knocks, and these guys are in there having a conversation. Like these athletes are in there. They're like, yeah, man, I've been in here for like 10 minutes.
That's okay. Yeah.
They're like, yeah, I've been here for 10 minutes, bro. Like, what are you doing, bro? And they all sound like WWE superstars. They're like, yeah, man, I had like 13 offers coming out of college or like coming out of high school. You're like, why are these guys talking like this? Like, you shouldn't be that cool in like cold water. You shouldn't be that comfortable. You know what I mean? And then then you realize like, okay, these guys have done it hundreds, if not thousands of times in high school, in college, and now in the NFL. It's just a day. It's just what you do, right? Or like when you see people get tackled, do you ever see like the worst way to get tackled is to get dragged down from behind, right? Because it's like getting slowly run over by a car, right? Like I'd rather get hit by a car going like 20, where I just hit, boom, and then you fly onto the, or you just fall off. But slowly, a car is just rolling over top of you, and it gets your ankles, then it gets your knees, and then your hips, and at that point, it's just your face just hits the ground,
and you're falling backwards.
Yeah, and you're getting dragged from behind, and you're just trying to like stay up, and then eventually you just get slowly run over. And guys will they'll get tackled like that, and then get up and be like, first down, right? And you're like, how do you do like that? It's just it's so much pain. Like I just don't understand how people could do certain things like that over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And it's just because their body just gets used to it. You just get used to
the Cleveland Browns games were always about 6 or 7 minutes longer because the amount of time it took Jim Brown to get up and walk back to the huddle. If you ever see watch him walk back to the huddle, looks like it's the final walk of his life. Then he gets back to the huddle. I don't know, grabs a can of spinach, and when the ball is snapped, look out. All the bulbs are lit again. This guy's going crazy, and
that slow walk back. He's putting everything, all the muscles and bones are getting back in alignment. It's like, okay, ready to go.
I know, he's like a transformer. His arm is like, it's like coming back. It's like, okay, we're good now.
The foot's back on here. Okay, now I'm ready to go.
Harold Carmichael, the cornerback that used to guard Howard Carmichael in the Washington games was Pat Fisher. And Pat Fisher was 5'8" tall, and he would cover 6'8" Harold Carmichael.
Wow!
And he would hit him in the midsection, leave the ground, and fly into his midsection. Okay, Harold Carmichael said, I feared this little SOB. I would create my separation. I could jump higher to get the ball than he could, but it was Wednesday before I got out of bed. His sore ribs and bruised ribs and his entire midsection, and even I was heavily padded there. I still couldn't get out of bed by Wednesday of the next week. And these days, if we had to play a Thursday night game, I don't think that would have been doable. This guy's not in the Hall of Fame. He's an excellent cornerback, but as far as Harold Carmichael says, he was excellent in his coverage. He says, if you threw a ball a little bit too low, I didn't get it. If you threw it 10 feet in the air, I got it. But how are you going to do that 60 yards away? That means Ron wasn't that good.
Ron Jaworski?
Yes. Right. I don't know who covered Carmichael in the 1980 championship game against the Raiders, but Carmichael only caught 3 balls the entire game. And Jaworski was trying to hit, Charlie Smith. Charlie Smith was 5'11", and he was covered like a blanket. He had a cornerback and a safety on him. He only had one cornerback on Carmichael. And he was supposed to be the Polish rifle, and he couldn't hit him 50, 55 yards away at 10 feet in the air. And I got to admit, it's a tough throw, but here's a quarterback.
That's the worst throw.
That's not many guys are making a 50, 60-yard throw accurate.
Mahomes might be able to, but
yeah, you're right. And at the end of that throw, you're still 10 feet in the air with it.
Yeah, so you have to. That's like a howitzer.
Yeah.
So you just gotta shoot that thing out of your shoulder.
Yeah.
Because you gotta hang it up there, and then it's gotta stay up there. And I don't know. So you're really actually trying to throw it like 70 yards, but on a rope 70 yards.
Yeah.
And you got to throw it faster than the receiver is because it has to catch up to him.
They have to
all
get
the
in
way
stride.
down there. Yeah, because you don't want him stopping and waiting for it.
No.
Yeah, because then that's
I used to love
So
to
Mel
watch.
Blanc comes over and just changes your whole.
That's where that little guy's smashing in the ribs,
Oh,
and
man.
down you go.
That's when he rearranges your
Yeah.
organs.
I used to love to watch Brady and Moss.
Yeah.
That year where they teamed up for 25 TDs. And Brady could hang it. I mean, almost the length of the field.
still
And Moss could get under it. I don't know why he ever left the Patriots. I don't know why they let this guy go. Are you kidding me?
Patriots fans are wondering that right now.
Yes,
They
I think
don't
are.
understand why. Yeah.
He would have bypassed Jerry Rice if they would have stayed with the Patriots, because Tom could put it up there. And I was watching this duo, and I said, these guys might as well play catch the whole game.
You know what I always wonder? I always wonder that, why is it that every quarterback record has been eclipsed probably 3 and 4 times now, right? Like at one point, Dan Fouts had the record for touchdowns in a season. It was 36.
Yeah.
Now you throw 36, you may not even be MVP, right? That's just normal. Your 36 touchdowns are it's normal.
That's kind of normal,
right? So, but almost all of Rice, Jerry Rice, as much as the quarterback game has got so crazy, and 4,000 and 5,000 yard seasons are still just good. It's not you know what I mean? You just oh, he had a great season. He threw for 5,000 yards. That's a good season, right? Or Mahomes had a bad season last year and still threw 4,500 yards, right? So, but how come none of Jerry Rice's records ever been broken? Because much as the passing game has advanced, why hasn't the wide receiver game advanced either?
Yeah, and that's been
I've always wondered, why is
22 years.
He's just that. I think he is the best athlete probably of the 19th century.
And that was the thing.
Yeah,
He was, he was good for so long. It wasn't just, he didn't just have a long career. He was good right up to the end. I mean,
Yes, he was.
he retired in his prime.
his off years, he was catching, 10, 12 touchdowns, which is okay, I'll take that. Most guys would be I'll make a career out of that. That was an off year for him.
Right.
Yeah.
He's he was like Brady. He was playing, close to 40 and at a high level.
Yeah. So he was just so good for such a long time. It's he put things almost too far out of reach, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
And who's got a shot at topping Tom Brady besides Mahomes?
I don't think that guy's been born yet.
I think it might be Burrow, actually.
Burrow?
I like Joe Burrow a lot.
Okay.
But
me too.
I also think that they put they did something that I don't think that they put a team around Burrow way early. This is only his third year in, right? And he's got a stud wide receiver. He's got a great line. He's got a really good run game. The defense is pretty. I would say they're pretty good. There's not a bunch of standout stars, but when they play together, it's pretty effective. Yeah. But I think Burrow is probably the closest thing we have to Brady, because he's not exceptional. He's not an exceptional runner, but he knows where to go with the football, and he has the ability to get it there. Yeah. Yeah, so I think Brady or Burrow is the closest to Brady, but in terms of someone who's going to eclipse him, I don't even know if I'm going to see that.
Oh, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? He's going into his 22nd year starting or 21st year starting.
I'll be shoveling coal on the fire.
23 years.
He's 45. I mean, years ago he said, "How long do you want to play?" He said, "I want to play till 45," and everyone was like, "Oh." And then like he hit 40, and it was like, okay. And then he left and he went to the Buccaneers and he won the Super Bowl, and it was like,
43
years ago he said 45. He's gonna freaking do it.
He's gonna do it, dude.
And here he is. He retired last year, and everyone was like, okay. And then he come back. Nope, I'm doing it to 45.
Yeah. Do you know why? Do you hear the crazy conspiracy theory as to why he came back? Do you know about this?
No.
You guys don't know? Okay. So here's what was the situation, right? Is that he retired because the Miami Dolphins offered him ownership stake in the Dolphins, like in the ownership, right, of the Miami Dolphins, right? And he was gonna just sort of have this big announcement, retire, go be an owner, and I think maybe coach too or something like that. In that, sorry, yeah. As soon as you started bringing it up, in that vein though, they were also going to be getting Sean Payton, from the Saints to be the coach, of the Dolphins, and he was going to play for the Dolphins,
and he was going to play a year or two for the Dolphins as the QB, and Sean Payton was going to be the coach, and they were going to be this.
So Tom Brady was going to be the quarterback for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Sean Penn would be the coach.
Sean Payton. Yep.
Sean Payton is going to be the coach.
Yep.
And then when
there was a deal on GM or ownership partnership with the Dolphins after that.
Yep.
Yeah. But then the Dolphins had Brian Flores, and when that relationship sort of went nuke, and Brian Flores like sued the NFL and the owner got suspended. Brady was like, and then they leaked it. I don't know if it was Miami directly, but like it came out that Brady plans to retire. Like Adam Schefter, like in his relentless pursuit to be the first person to tweet everything, he leaked. He said, sources have told me that Brady intends to retire. Like I think it was 2 or 3 days before he actually like said he was stepping away from the game. And so the whole situation, the whole deal of ownership and all that stuff just went like to nothing. It totally dismantled into just nothingness. And then he was like, you know what? I'm just gonna play it on 45 now, and then I'm gonna return to the Buccaneers, and we're just gonna see how this goes.
Somebody can do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's nuts.
When you have those kind of results, I'm going to retire. See, I'm going to hang it up, and then a couple of months later, nope, coming back. Okay, whatever plans you put for a quarterback are now on the shelf.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was the thing, though. I mean,
Tampa
didn't have any plans for a quarterback.
Yeah, they drafted Kyle Trask in like the 3rd round out of the University of Florida. Yeah. I think that was it. That was like their contingency was like just to be kind of shitty for the next couple of years, and hopefully Mike Williams and Godwin stay healthy to where we can bring another young quarterback in.
Yeah.
But you know what? I was going to say something else, man. Oh, I think that retiring and unretiring, I think that has a shelf life because you don't want to be like Brett Favre. You don't want to be like, I'm just going to retire because I don't want to do training camp, right? And then come back and just walk into a job every time. And I think, you know what it is though? I think with Green Bay in general, like I don't want to be like a victim blamer or whatever, but like Green Bay always seems to have issues with their quarterback. And I think it's because they don't have like a dedicated owner. Like the city owns the team. I think that's really nice and sentimental, but they should just appoint one guy that's just a dick and just have him be like, just like have a billionaire come in, buy like half a stake and still the town owns half or whatever. Like Robert Kraft is like, it's like, I mean, I'm going to take Brady's side, but if we have to move on, we have to move on. Like the disciplinarian almost. Like you kind of know, like, because Aaron Rodgers right now, like he's talking about how he went on an ayahuasca trip in the mountains of Chile or some shit like that, right? He's like, yeah, it's like he just took some ayahuasca and, went on this trip and found myself and found who I was. It's like, I mean,
nice.
It's like, bro, what are you, 37? You don't know who you are yet?
Hey.
But it goes back to that conversation of, how much you're willing to put up with,
Yeah.
I mean, and Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback,
Yeah, his ability is great.
But I like to look at things as like, okay, he's and we may have this end up going down this rabbit hole, but is he a Hall of Famer? Maybe. I mean, he's won a ton of MVPs, but won Super Bowl, guys. Don't ever forget that. I mean, Packers like to say we're title town.
It's just named after your coach.
You know, you know, the guy that you're lusting over and saying you got to give him all this money in the world, you know, and he puts you through the ringer. Yes, he wins in the regular season. You know, his postseason record, but not too much. You know, how much are you willing to put up with? I mean, if somebody else wants to take him, he'd have gone somewhere else. He would have gone somewhere else. I guarantee you. He'd have gone somewhere else.
One ring for how many years? 16?
Yeah. He was drafted in 2004, 5?
Yeah, with one team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, here's a team he got to the playoffs with.
But
there's a team he got NFC Championship with. He can't win a bowl.
But the thing with the Packers was, and I really do think the Packers are snake bit on this, is that they were good, 60s, 70s, then it fell off, and they were terrible. Like no one, who the hell are the Packers in the 70s and 80s? Nobody knew.
Yeah.
And then they got a quarterback, Don Majkowski, the Magic Man. You know, for those of you who remember the Magic Man. Yeah. And they were like, he brought him to relevance, and people were like, oh, wow, the quarterback. You know, and then he kind of went away, and they were kind of they fell off a little bit, and then they got Brett Favre.
Yeah.
And then they were relevant, Brett Favre. And that's, I think the whole thing is, I think the Packers are locked into this whole brainwash thing of, we have to have the quarterback. We have to have the name, the face. Yeah. Otherwise, we're not going to be relevant anymore.
Yeah. And I think, you know what, too, though? I mean, I don't know if you still making a point or.
No.
Okay. I was saying, like, a lot of that is just fan stuff, too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an Eagles fan. If it was up to me, we'd probably still have Wentz. And we'd probably have the second pick every year, right? Because I just liked what I saw from Wentz. So at some point, you need, like, when we got rid of Wentz, I'm sure you could, like, everybody in Philadelphia, like, I think it was Howie Roseman had to get tinted windows because someone threw a Frosty at him on the Schuylkill. Where like, someone was like, oh shit. And then they threw something at him because they were like, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're doing, and blah, 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 blah. Like, they went off on this tangent. So it was like, you need someone that needs to make those decisions. Like, you need someone that says, I know where the league's going. I know these GMs. I know these people. I know what direction this is going to. We have to do this. This is what needs to be done, like, period. Like, that's what it is. And again, when you're owned by the fans, right, and they dictate everything you do, you get stuck with a man-child that does, like, ayahuasca. You know?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with ayahuasca. I mean, if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. But, you know, I'm not going to a shaman in the mountains to trip balls for 30 minutes. No, I'm not doing that.
That's because you're not getting paid $100 million a year.
That's true, right? Maybe when I'm 37, I'm like, I got to find out who I am and all my millions, and go to the hills somewhere.
Yeah, I hope I see that.
Oh my God! No, not me tripping on ayahuasca. I hope nobody sees that, except for the shaman. But that's a weird thing. You know what? Like a lot of the psychedelics and stuff, they've been experimenting with that stuff for a long time. Like you can volunteer, like all of us, we can go volunteer to go to a retreat for, I think it's like 3 or 4 weeks, and they just give us mushrooms every day, and we just make like $1,000 a week, just eating mushrooms and just tripping balls.
You get paid.
Yeah, it's for research. It's like it's a legitimate research thing. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? It's insane.
I'm not seeing this in the water. Wait a minute.
I know this is it's like Stranger Things. Have you watched Stranger Things?
I got to admit this. I watched the first season of Stranger Things. Absolutely loved it. Yeah. Second season of Stranger Things rolls along. Mm-hmm. And I started watching the first couple episodes. For some reason, I stopped watching. Something happened, and I fell out of it. And then season 3 came along, and I'm like, okay, yeah, oh, well, maybe I'll watch it. And I didn't watch it. And at this point, I have to restart because I'm too far out of the loop.
Yeah, it's... Well, you saw the first first season. So the first thing, the whole point is like how they get their powers is like they just microdose their moms into having like this into like a mental break pretty much, and then their kids are born with like superpowers. So maybe, you know, we all go through, you know, we get our thing going, and then maybe I have a superpower kid or something in the future. You know, maybe I meet like a weird chick dad with like dreadlocks for some reason, and we have like a superpowered kid.
Yeah,
that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? But then I'd still, guess what? I still wouldn't know who I am.
No, see, because
yeah.
See, because I would end up going down like The Boys. Do you watch The Boys?
No, I have not watched The Boys.
The whole thing is that whole thing is, you know, what if superheroes went bad?
Yeah,
you know, kind of thing. And it'd be like, yeah, if I ever had a super kid, yeah, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure he'd be Superman. I'm sure he might be more Batman-ish, like kind of plays on the dark side.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, just like beat somebody up for
Yeah.
like, shoplifting.
Yeah. So,
like breaks their
Yeah.
leg. Like, ah.
yeah. I'd like him to be
Yeah.
Captain America, but he's probably not. Maybe more Deadpool.
Yeah, like I like an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Like a Doctor Doom or something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Man, you
maybe
got-
not a sadistic.
Man, you guys lost me. I'm still with Popeye.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's I don't know. I think it's weird. How did we get on? We were talking about
We're talking about Aaron Rodgers and his psychedelic drugs.
See, this is just what he does. Like he just gets you like caught up in this like, and then he came in like you ever see when he showed up at training camp, he looked like Con Air.
Yeah, Nick
Yeah,
Cage from
he
Con
looked
Air.
like
Yeah.
Nick yeah, that was so
Yeah.
funny. He was like he just kind of shows up and he's like, and then he was John Wick last year, which I actually thought was a dope costume. I really did like that one.
Well, for me, the combination of Carson and Nick equaled win.
Yeah,
Because it did. And that was 2 consecutive years. You know, and one was Super Bowl, one was playoff.
yeah,
You know, and that equaled win for me. And even Nick said, all right, I'll take $1 million cut to stay.
yeah.
And Carson can have the starting job. And I'll be a backup. And I think, oh, he's got an Earl Morrow. I guess, well, we are so deep in quarterback. This is crazy, you know. And I said, geez, I hope this comes to be. Because Nick said, hey, I'll take $1 million cut, and I'll be the backup. That means you get $17 million a year. That's not too shabby, and you don't have to move.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. You know?
$17 million. That's nuts. Imagine making that a year. $17
doing that?
million.
Sign
Right.
up.
Seriously,
And I
just to do nothing.
And I go all the way back 30 years before that. And the Cardinals had an O-line guy, and he was obstinate, and he had an attitude. He was a lot like John Runyon, and I'm trying to think of his name. They paid this guy $800,000 a year 30 years ago, right? And his contract came up, and he says, no, I'm just going to sign a contract next, for the same thing. That's plenty of money. Says, I don't understand why anybody needs to make more money than that. I mean, I live a lifestyle I've dreamed of, and I'm an O-line dude. I can be an O-line dude for another 10 years, and I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and I like that attitude. Says we have a good team. We have Jim Ray Hart as our quarterback, and we have an excellent defense. We've got an excellent offense, and we're just this far. We're the best shitty team in the league.
Yeah.
We just have to get this far. He says, how far is it from, how much do you have to do to make the club as not making a club in spring training? It's not much. How much do you have to do to make the club and be an all-pro? And that's not much more. That's a pretty fine line there. And how much do you have to be an all-pro and play together and get that spirit in the locker room to be a champion? And you're not talking about this much. You're talking about these intangibles, which really you can't even talk about. It's the togetherness that you feel in the locker room. We had it with Jim Hart. We had it with Kurt Warner. And it just seems to weld like that. Well, it's just long before him. I forget this guy's name. But he was an instigator on the line, and he would talk about people's mothers and the people that he was facing, and, and all this stuff, and he would insult your family before the ball was snapped.
Sounds like John Randall.
He would just trash talk like crazy. And I know his name, and even today he's a smart ass. When he did his guest spots on Jay Leno and Johnny Carson, he was a smart ass. But he backed it up. He walked the walk. John Runyon is the second generation to this guy, and John, he's a politician. Okay,
Yeah. He was. I don't think he is now.
Oh,
Now
okay.
he works for the NFL on rules and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Stan Walters was another O-line guy, and he had an attitude. It's pretty much the same attitude, not as bad as John Runyon, okay, because he didn't let Strahan through, right? And Strahan always had a problem with Runyon, and he would trash talk each other and all this stuff. You hear some of the conversations that Michael Strahan has with announcers and commentators when they bring up John Runyon, And Strahan made the Hall of Fame because he tied the sack record for the season when Brett Favre
gave it to him.
Brett Favre folded and went down and gave it to him. But hey, Michael Strahan says, okay, you can criticize all you want. I'm going to fall on top of the guy. Sure, because it's a sack.
Yeah.
He can get up and run if I don't. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. It just happened to be the 22nd or 23rd sack of the year or whatever it was. And it just happened to be to break that particular record. And if you're going to criticize it, well, fine. Suit up and go to it. Beat it. And if you can't, shut your mouth. That's all. So I kind of like when people talk like that because they not only talk it, but they walk it. And I'm still trying to... Conrad Dobler. That was the name of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh, yeah.
He was one.
He was nasty.
He was nasty.
He was nasty.
Yeah, even in the stands, he would egg on people that rooting for the other team. Man, he wouldn't have shut his mouth. But they turned around with their fists clenched, and all he did was stand up, all 6'8" of them. The other guy sat down because Conrad could handle that 6'8". This other guy.
The other guy's like a deli shop worker.
In
downtown Philadelphia. He's like, I own a hoagie shop, dude. And I don't want to get pummeled by this freaking giant.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Going back to Aaron Rodgers is that they asked him. They said, "What was the funniest heckler experience?" And he said when he was at Lincoln Financial Field, somebody behind him kept yelling at him. Right, and he kept hearing him say Aaron Rodgers, but one time he actually heard what he was saying, and the whole night he kept yelling, "Rodgers, get the splinters out of your ass," because he was riding the bench, right, and he kept yelling that he yelled it he said from the first quarter. He said finally he just kind of went like this and waved thanks buddy, you got me at third, and then he switched to something else, and he just kept yelling at him. I'm like, it must be hell to play at the link. I wouldn't if I was a football player. I wouldn't want to play at the link either.
There was a snowball game. I mean, they booed Santa Claus for God's
Didn't they hit him with with snowballs with batteries in them?
Yeah,
or something like that. Yeah.
They used to throw beer bottles. That's why they have plastic cups now. And that's why
awesome.
that's why they limit. I even think they took away the beer.
I don't know.
I'm not sure, but you can't bring anything in, and you have to buy whatever you buy there, whatever they want to charge. But it's all paper cups or plastic cups or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think I think you can bring in water, but it's got to be in the plastic bottle. It can't be anything with weight.
Well, didn't they make you guys dump it out when we went down?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, it depends on which gate you go into.
Because we got through
all the rules.
Yeah, because we got through with the water bottles, and we were I was like, oh, thank God. I was so hyped. I was like, we don't have to dump it out.
Because I used to watch them throw Ballantine beer bottles at the Eagles home games and the Eagles home baseball games. I didn't go to many of those, but I went there. I saw Dallas hit 4 home runs in that one game, and for bad calls, I mean, the home plate umpire had a duck, and he wore a soft hat and was throwing beer bottles.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine this. And this is years. This just doesn't... Since age of the brown beer bottle, man, they were sailing through the air.
Oh, I went to an opening season game. Eagles. It was Cardinals Eagles.
Ooh.
And the Cardinals. This is back when the Cardinals were still in the NFC East.
Oh.
And so, of course, division game. It was it was going to be ugly.
It's turned up to 11.
And we sit down. We were in the lower level, so I mean there were decent seats. 30, 35 yard line. We're like, yeah, great, cool.
Yeah.
And the game hadn't even started, and I knew we were in for a bad time because 2 rows in front of us, directly in front of us, were 2 idiots who came to the game wearing Cardinals jerseys. And I'm like, oh, it's over. It's over.
Oh, my God.
By halftime, we were drenched in beer because they kept throwing beer. Beer was coming from the upper level. Beer was coming from behind us. They just constant sprout. I was showered in.
Beer was still in the bottle.
People would get the beer vendor. Yeah, I'll take 2. Down they come, and we were and by halftime these guys were gone. But just the stuff you heard them getting yelled. Just
what was the funniest one?
Oh, it wasn't. They weren't. They were vulgar. Like they were like.
Oh, it wasn't. It wasn't like okay.
Oh no.
It was straight to the jugular.
Yeah,
like,
it was like they left at halftime because I think if they would have stayed for the whole game, they'd have found their bodies in the Schuylkill. You know.
Yeah. Along with the other ones.
Yeah, I mean it was bad. I mean, there's a reason they put a jail.
Yeah.
In
Oh yeah. It's one of the biggest ones too. It's like it's a huge jail.
If you want to increase your vocabulary, 42% go to an Eagles or Phillies game.
I want to go to one bad. It's so expensive to go now. It's crazy.
Oh, they're too much. I know.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, a few years ago, thanks to interleague play,
Yeah.
I can actually see the Indians play.
Yeah.
In Philadelphia, which is nice.
That's cool.
And so,
did you wear a jersey?
I did.
Jersey? Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah.
Well, you know what?
And it was like nobody bothered me. It was great.
Oh,
It was
good.
it was fine.
Yeah.
No big deal. It's. I think it's gotten better than it
Yeah.
was. I mean, I went to a few years ago. Do you remember the Eagles Packers game?
I do.
That was supposed to be a Sunday night game, and then we got the snowstorm, and they kept moving the game, and it moved to like a Wednesday night or something because there's so much snow.
Yeah.
I went to that game.
Really?
I had tickets to that game. I'm like, oh, God, I'm never going to get to this game.
Yeah.
But I mean, we went. There were people there, Packers jerseys, and they got rig brazzed them, but I mean, it wasn't anything violent. It wasn't anything nasty. It's not like it was used to be, but it's gotten better. But yeah, Philly fans are a different breed.
Yeah. Well, I took Debbie and Becky. The other two were way too young to an Eagles-Jets preseason game in 1974.
Just a side note.
Hey.
Why do the Eagles always play the Jets in the preseason?
This is in Meadowlands. I don't know. No idea.
This is like the fourth year in a row that I can remember we played the Jets first game.
It might be a location thing.
Yeah.
Because they're not too far off. It's easy to schedule it.
Yeah. I
mean, you can't schedule the 49ers all the time because, they got to fly. Somebody's got to fly across the country.
Yeah.
It costs money,
Yeah.
You play New York, you play Baltimore, you play Washington, it's a bus trip.
Yeah. Or the Steelers.
Yeah.
It's bus trip.
I think I still have the pennant.
Yeah.
The Eagles won that game because they never lost a preseason game against the Jets until Friday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, which...
Oh, by the way, from Zach.
What's that?
Yeah. So this is from Zach.
Oh, Jack. Who's Jack?
Zach.
Oh, Zach.
Your grandson, the Eagles, the Jets fan.
Yeah. Are we like 60-0 against them in the regular season though?
Yeah.
That we beat them like what 6 times?
Yeah.
Or something like that. We're like undefeated against the Jets in the regular season.
Yeah,
I think so.
All I gotta say is that anytime the Cowboys want to say it's their
beat
year,
them, yeah. Senate.
I say yeah. Well, the last 3 times you played the sucky Jets, you've lost.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? That's crazy.
Yeah, Senate came down with the supposedly winning touchdown drive for the Eagles, and Eagles went ahead. I think it was 21-17.
Yeah, the Eagles
and then
fourth team defenses really suck.
And then they kicked off to the Jets. The Jets ran it all the way back to the 40-yard line. I guess, okay, they got to get a touchdown. Field goal's not going to do it. And they marched right in, and they got a touchdown, obviously, before the end of the game. I said, yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Like you said, who was ever playing defense just punched out. And we couldn't hold that off for, 31 seconds. That's how much it took them to go to the field.
Yeah.
We couldn't hold that off for 31 seconds. Oh, man.
I'm telling you, the Eagles are really top heavy. But I guess also too, you're not going to have a starter playing with 4-string. You know what I mean? 4-string guys are fringe guys that are going to play special teams or, be on punt team or something like that. So these are all the reps these guys are going to get. I actually think that Carson Strong, the other guy, the other quarterback is going to be the 3rd-string guy, just because if you see him in Nevada, his highlights, I mean he had a reconstructed knee, right? And he wore remember the old school the Dan Marino his knee braces he used to wear that just looked like they look like a trash can around his knees. That's what he was wearing, and he couldn't even move. And he was wearing that, and he was throwing dimes 50 yards flat-footed. So I think that he's probably going to make the team. This Randy Senate guy, I don't know about that, but it's also his 3rd year in the league, so he's just kind of bouncing around. But yeah. Well, who do you think is going to start for the Steelers?
Oh man, kidding me?
Mitch Trubisky or
Willie Pickett.
Kenny. That's his brother.
Kenny.
Close.
Yeah, his brother's Willie.
You know, I loved the stat line from last night's game. It was everybody played well.
Yeah,
The problem, you can write off Mason Rudolph right now.
I think so.
Just-
He's had too many chances.
He's had the chance to do it. He doesn't have the fans backing.
Yeah.
He can go out there and have a stat line like he had last night. QB rating of 100, touchdown, no sack, no interception. He can do that, and they won't accept him. They just at this point they won't accept. And it's sad because he should. If he could have produced in a regular season on a semi-regular basis, they'd have taken him in a heartbeat. Yeah. For everything that happened with him and the Browns, that kind of, blue collar, get in the dirt, get muddy, that kind of thing. Steelers fans love that stuff.
Yeah, because it's a blue collar city.
Yeah, I mean they'll love that. But he hasn't produced. He's had his chance. I mean, I think the only real reason he's still in camp with the team is because Dwayne Haskins died.
Yeah, I was to say.
I think if Haskins was still here, they'd have jettisoned Rudolph and they would have gone with the veteran.
Yeah.
Trubisky. They would have gone with, okay, you've been with the team for a couple years. You're young and you have potential. You have Haskins, and then you got the pure rookie in Pickens.
Yeah.
Pickett. Excuse me. See, you screwed me up.
Yeah. Well, there's a rookie, George Pickens.
Oh, George Pickens. Yeah, our wide receiver.
I hate how good the Steelers are at drafting wide
The
receivers.
wide receiver core we have, I like them a lot.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
And also the luck that you guys have too. Like you guys just traded away James Washington, who just obliterated his foot in camp, and he's gone for 6 to 10. Well, fractured. I shouldn't say obliterated. That's kind of insensitive, but he fractured his foot in camp at Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then even before that, right? Like you got rid of Antonio Brown. Everyone's like, these guys are crazy. And then he turned out to be.
And he lost his mind.
He literally lost. His mind.
He lost his mind last year. He was at the Steelers when he sat
when he
out.
live streamed.
Yeah,
did all
he
that.
sat out for the year. Yeah.
But I mean, shout out to the cuff. I always want to say his name's Coughlin for some reason, even though I know it's not. Tomlin. He is.
One thing I will say that it's the Steelers have always scout well. We're never going to have the big name guy on the team. We're never going to have the big money guy. And we had Roethlisberger, but you got to pay your quarterback. That's just
the way that
we're never going to have the top guy at a position because he's going to want too much money.
Yeah.
But they always do well finding those mid-level guys and getting the most out of their potential.
Yeah, like
whether it's offense, defense. They just the scouting staff is just phenomenal for that.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the only blunders I think in the last few years is trading away Javon Hargrave. That's one of the only I think blunders that the Steelers made, because as soon as he got to the Eagles, I mean, it was like him and Aaron Donald and Fletcher Cox that were like the top interior defensive guys or top interior pass rushers, like fresh out of the box. Like we got him, we put him in, he was in the system, and then immediately, I think it was 2 sacks first game, right? A sack another game, 3 sacks his third game. It was just over and over and over. That was the only I guess blunder. But then you look at what they have, it's almost like there's not enough room, right? Because they have Casey Hayward and then they have T.J. Watt, and then it's like you kind of had to just bite the bullet and get rid of somebody so that you could pay your 2 huge ends. So I understood it, but I was like, damn, thank God. But then also too is the Eagles and Steelers. I don't know if you know this, but they share a ton of personnel. Mm-hmm. Like a bunch of Eagles scouts just went to Pittsburgh, and 3, I think the head of scouting, I think it was, or the head of the scouting department for Pittsburgh just came to Philadelphia. Like people just stay in PA. Yeah.
Well, they've been sharing since 1943.
The Steagles. I did some research on that, right?
Yeah.
You know what? I was thinking about it. 1943. If you're an Eagles fan, you on the camera, you should know about the Steagles. But this is what I read, right? So it was 3 owners. It was Art Rooney, Burt Bell, and then it was Alexis Thompson, right? And he came into $6 million in 1929. I was like, how much money is that? That's crazy. And then he bought the Steelers, right? Art Rooney sold him the Steelers. And then took $160,000 from that and bought half of the Eagles. And then they all of them sort of had second thoughts. Like Burt Bell was like, I kind of want the Eagles to myself. Alexis Thompson renamed the Steelers to the Iron Men. And then he was kind of like, I don't know if I like that name. And then, no, I think Art Rooney was like, I don't know if I like that name, boss. They all had second thoughts, and they all just kind of like reverted, like switched back. And then the team switched. So It was like the guys that were in Pittsburgh became the Eagles because they stayed in Philly. And then the guys that left to go back to Pittsburgh, right, were the original Eagles players. So it was just like a swap.
Burt Bell was also the commissioner.
Yeah.
So he owned the Eagles, but he was also the commissioner in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he took the commissioner's job because he was tired of seeing tired football players on the weekend, because they would play all during the week. They would play for they were Akron Bulldogs one day, and then they'd come up and play the Massillon Tigers another day, and then the New York Giants another day, and then the Pittsburgh Pirates, which are now the Steelers, play another day. And by the time the weekend rolled around, they were beat. But he said, hey, I got to make a living. I got to put bread on the table. You guys are only giving me $25, $30 a game. I can't play one game a week for that.
Oh, my gosh.
So Burt Bell put a stop to that. We're going to pay you more money, okay, to stay with one team, unless, of course, if you're traded, that'll be a personal thing, because sometimes they couldn't get all the guys together. Here's a guy coming from New York to play in Pittsburgh, and he got stuck on the train.
Yeah.
And it was and then he had to go to Akron the next day to play for the pros. And all of this stuff. And things got really crazy. Massillon Tigers and Canton Bulldogs. And they were just, hey, we got to be a little more organized than this. We can't have guys dragging their ass in here on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
And they just got done playing 4 games. And we're pissing them on about have to play on Sunday and then Thursday night. And look at what they were doing back in the day. So Burt Bell put a stop to that. But, yeah, he wanted the Eagles to himself.
Who did?
He named the Eagles 1933 when he bought them.
Who?
It was the Burt Bell, the defunct Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. And they were like 3-4-time champions in 1919 to 1933. And Frankfurt section of Philadelphia wasn't part of the city then. Frankfurt became part of the city, and Burt Bell bought the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets and named them the Philadelphia Eagles. The Chicago Bears were called the Staley Bears when they first started out, because Staley's section was not part of Chicago. And that's just evolved into the Chicago Bears when Staley became part of Chicago. Chicago is a conglomerate of little communities, just like Detroit is, just like Philadelphia is, Richmond, Brownsburg, Tacony, Wissinoming, Germantown, and all of this stuff. And they all became incorporated into Philadelphia. So while this was all happening, the cities were evolving and becoming a city at the time that these football teams were starting to blossom as well. And that's pretty much what happened. And Burt Bell was stuck with being a commissioner too, so Burt Bell died commissioner of the National Football League.
Jesus.
Yeah, he was the first commissioner. I think he died in 1952.
Wow.
Yeah, Burt Bell.
When was he born? Like
1860? 1885, somewhere around there.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
it's crazy.
He was in his 70s. He was younger than me when he died, but, the guys lived a hell of a life. A lot of fried foods. Everybody smoked like a chimney and all that stuff. So there was a lot of body abuse back in that day.
Even in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like in the 80s, guys were just like ripping lines of cocaine. They were just like, yeah, this is just like a pick-me-up.
Well,
they just didn't understand. They're like, yeah, that's so whatever. And then they're losing their teeth.
Gino Marchetti lived to be 91.
Yeah.
Chuck Bednarik lived to be 91. Both of them were born in 1927. They died in 2018.
Wow.
So these guys that ran this tough life, they lived a long time, some of them.
Chuck Bednarik.
Tom A. McDonald, 91 years old. Chuck Bednarik, 1927 to 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was 91 years old. Gino Marchetti, 91 years old. 90 years old, Tommy McDonald. Some of these guys lived a long time, And they played back when football was pretty rough. Anyway, my take on the Steelers game.
Yeah.
The preseason game. They scored every quarter, no matter who was at the helm. That's impressive in itself. a great debut for Pickett. There's Willie Pickett, Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Willie.
And
It's his brother, Willie Pickett.
A for Kenny Pickett, the winning TD drive. Guy comes off the bench and just wins the game with a really good drive. That was set up by strip sack from Mark Robinson, which was an impressive defensive player the whole game. All three quarterbacks played well. It's going to be a tough decision between Trubisky, Rudolph, and Pickett. I like Pickett, okay, because the way he played and his attitude. I like the way he engineered that final drive. This guy looked like he's been doing it forever.
That's
so calm.
that was the key to it.
He just fit.
I think it was a perfect storm for it last night because I think he might have played differently if it was on the road. But he came in. It was a home game. The place was packed because it's Pittsburgh and that's what they do.
Yeah.
And they were behind him like the whole way.
Oh my God!
So I mean, even fourth down tie game, and he gets a sack.
Robinson got the sack. Yeah.
No, when Pickett got sacked.
Oh.
And which effectively ended the fourth down. Turns the ball over on downs. The place should have booed the living snot out of him, but they didn't. Because they know he's a rookie, first year quarterback. This guy might be the future, and he showed him some stuff. They showed him on the opening drive that he had. And the reward for that is the defense steps up, creates an opportunity for the offense. The rookie goes back out on the field and he produces. And we were talking about the receiver core.
Oh my gosh.
You got with Johnson, Claypool, when Pickens. But he's not playing with those guys. And that wide receiver caught that curl pass. And throws off the defender and runs it in 20 yards. Denver says, can he pick it through the winning touchdown? That wide receiver made a hell of a play.
Yeah, that play was ridiculous.
That was great.
Yeah.
But the fact that he came in and he showed that it wasn't too big for him. He can play. That said a lot about it. I'm not sure you hand the keys to the franchise to him though to start the season.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay, it's only one game.
I think, and I mean, if he comes out and he's Peyton Manning the next couple preseason games, maybe. Mm-hmm. But I think at this point, you stick to the plan. Trubisky's your starter.
Yeah.
Pickett. Yeah, you and the Pickens, you're messing me up. Kenny's your backup.
Yeah.
And if you want to keep Rudolph on the team, he's your third guy. And maybe you don't sync it that way. Maybe you sync it that Rudolph's your backup and Kenny's the third string. If you want to play it that way, just to protect him. But if the push comes to shove, depending on the situation, you throw in whoever you think's going to work best.
Oh. Yeah.
You're playing the Ravens. You're getting slaughtered by 50 points. And Trubisky gets cut in half by the defense. Now you got to throw somebody out there. Mason, this is your deal.
You get hit in the face, and
you get another game where you're beating up the Browns, at home, and Trubisky twists his ankle, and you're winning the game by 100 points. You know what, Kenny? This is your opportunity because I think it's really going to depend on what they're playing, but I think they're going to go with Trubisky is going to be the start.
Yeah,
and he's got. I mean, he didn't. He wasn't the quarterback of the future for the Bears, but he was the last quarterback to take the Bears to the playoffs.
Yeah,
he knows how to win, and that team got a solid running game. Mm-hmm. You got solid receivers. If Claypool gets his head out of his ass, he's a number one guy. And you got Pickens now as a number one guy, possibly.
Yeah.
Johnson's a number one guy. You got great receivers.
Yeah.
Fryermuth's shown you he can play tight end.
He's a beast.
You set the weapons up for whoever's going to be running that offense can win. They just center's an issue.
Yeah, since Pouncey left, it's been a problem.
We got a new guy in there this year. If he can solidify the offensive line, that would be huge.
Yeah,
for whoever's quarterback.
Yeah. Who was in front of Pickens? Who was the center for Pickens?
Gotta Google again.
No. Some Steeler fan I am.
Pickens goes 13 for 15 at 95 yards and a TD, and he rushed for 16 yards.
Yeah.
I don't know who the center was, but he was pretty damn good.
Well, I think I don't know who was playing.
I definitely
when he
wouldn't
went in.
cut him.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch the game, except for the last
Yeah,
drive.
you guys did get Daniels from the Bears. Am I right? He's a lineman from the Bears. I think he was the Bears' best offensive lineman, and I think that the Steelers got him. And that's going to be an issue with we talking about the Bears and Mitch. The Bears really don't have a good offensive line. Like they let Kyle Long go, who was a tackle. They let Daniels, who I believe was their best offensive lineman, they let him go to Pittsburgh, and now he's the starter there. So they did draft, I believe, I want to say Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State a few years ago, and he's pretty good. He's more of like he's a mauler, like he's sort of like a throwback guy. Like he just gets his hands on you, he wants to bury you every play, and that's great. But that's better in the run game, whereas the pass is a little bit more finesse, a little bit more footwork, a little bit more, it's a kind of an art thing. But the Bears probably have one of the bottom shelf offensive lines, and unfortunately, thank God Justin Fields can run, because if you had I think he's more mobile than Mitch is. Like Mitch doesn't really want to be mobile. He's just he's getting flushed out all the time. But I personally, if we're talking about who we want to start, I mean, obviously as an outsider looking in, I think it'd probably be Mitch. And then I would probably put Mason as like a P squad guy, like a practice squad, because that he's going to prepare. You're playing against practice squad guys. You want guys that are similar, and he's been in the game before. He's played in big games, played against the Browns when they had that super team that they had a few years ago. And he has real experience in a real tough division. So I think he's a practice squad guy, and I think Pickett kind of slides into your number two, because you don't waste a first round pick, to have a guy not dress. I think he's going to dress on Sundays. But he following his career, he started off in Pitt. He was a starter for 3 years. He didn't really come on until his senior year. It was kind of rough for him in the first couple of years. And I only watched him play, I think, twice when Penn State was playing, because that's the only college team I watch. And he had a rough go of it. When he was playing Penn State, he had I think it was one of the stat lines was 63-3, right? In Pitt, and then the next year was 54-7. So he didn't have a great go of it. But this year, thank God we didn't have to play Pitt again, because this year he was just blowing teams out. Obviously won ACC championship, beat out Clemson, who always has solid classes. So I think if his career follows, just give him a couple years to learn, and then he'll put it together at some point, probably sooner rather than later. But I don't know. I like Pickett. I thought he was good. I did think that he was going to go a little higher though, but I guess not. I guess teams didn't value it.
Yeah. Well, Pickett is my pick. I mean, I saw this game. I just really impressed with this guy. Saw play after play after play.
Yeah.
Christ, where was this guy? And I'm always with the philosophy: the great people are going to start off like that, and they're going to stay like that.
Yeah.
And down through history, that's what we've seen. Who came out of nowhere at the end of 4 or 5 years of stumbling around? Oh no, I'd have to think. Okay.
Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning had 2 seasons in the beginning. First year set the interceptions record. The next year had a decent year.
He led the league in interceptions.
Then his third year, he everyone thought he was going to take this big jump. He was 6-10, and the Colts were "Yo, did we make a right decision here?" And then he took off in his 4th year, and it went crazy.
The hit on the Colts was they could score, but they didn't have any defense.
Yeah.
I mean, if they could score 50 points, they're going to win the game, because defense is going to give up 38.
Yeah.
So
some of it, a lot of it, is your talent. But I mean, you got to be in the right situation. I mean, Kurt Warner.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he
undrafted.
He floated around at camps, this and that. He was playing for the Iowa Barnstormers in the Arena League. He gets the call. Hey, we need a body in St. Louis. Come be the backup for Trent Green.
Yeah.
And it just worked. And
it just
and here we are.
First game of the season, Trent Green goes down. Oh, that's it. Greatest show on turf. What they became after that season, and all these big guns that they have on offense, and everybody's saying, and Dick Vermeil, and this is why this guy's in the Hall of Fame.
Love that guy.
He said, "We have Kurt Warner. We know what he can do. He had a good preseason. We're going to rally around Kurt Warner, and we're going to play damn good football." And he did. And because that's what this man expected. And that was a message that he had for his team. Kurt Warner's a winner. He's a proven winner. Like Trubisky, okay, but didn't have a name. After that season, he certainly did. And like you say, he fit. And they rallied around Kurt Warner, and they played damn good football. And Kurt, he could hit a freckle on a flea's ass at 50 yards. This guy was very, very... If he had an accurate year, that was 1999. That was the greatest show on turf, and it was. It was. And his defense, they allowed an average of 17 points a game, which is a great defense. And Kurt, their team scored more than 30 points a game. And that adds up to a winning season, and went right through and won the Super Bowl. That was terrific.
Did they?
I got to omit that tackle.
They won the Super Bowl in '99.
I think they played. Didn't they play the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah, it was
And
the first year with Kurt Warner. Yeah, they played the Titans in the Super Bowl.
Oh, because they had the reach.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
He reached for the ball, and even his knees hit the ground, but the ball hit the ground on like the 2-yard line. Right, and that would have been a Titans win if that tackle was made anytime a millisecond later. Okay, that would have been a win for the Titans. But,
Wow.
And it wasn't to be.
Yeah.
And he made that tackle.
Yeah.
That's what they call. That's what I call coming down to the wire. That is the wire. 2 more yards, and the Titans would have been the champions. Their first championship ever.
Yeah, and the Titans are like, not I wouldn't say but now, but they're Derrick Henry's going to get 400 touches this year.
Well, yeah,
yeah, and
No.
Titans used to be the Oilers,
Yeah.
now, and
Yes,
but
they did.
in the 70s,
Yeah.
they were nobody but Earl Campbell,
Oh,
as a
no,
running
just-
back,
yeah.
but now, and the Titans are kind of that way now,
Yeah, like
we've got
everything,
we're in flux. We've got okay guys, but all we've got is Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
And he's getting dinged up.
Yeah, and he's
He's running the ball
and
40 times a game.
Yeah, because he's the focus of everything.
Yes, and he's
Do you know when you hear an insane stat, like a crazy stat, is that he went down in week 5?
Mm-hmm.
He still was like top 5 in rushing yards
Yeah,
at the end of the season.
yeah,
with a week off.
That's crazy. He didn't play 12 games,
yeah.
Yeah,
and he still finished top 10. That's stupid. That's crazy. Can you imagine if he finished that year? I think he beat Eric Dickerson's record.
well,
I think
Yeah.
with flying colors too.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, 2000 this season for him is okay.
Yeah,
That's most guys are like 2000 season's like I'm retiring right now. Derrick Henry's like
2K.
Derrick Henry's like yeah, okay, that was week 10.
yeah. He's like, we're just cruising.
And any team who plays Tennessee Titans with Derrick Henry knows that they're going to have to tackle Derrick Henry
Yeah.
40 times a game,
And nobody wants to.
and
do
he's
that.
still getting these yards.
Yeah. Because
You know,
nobody
and-
wants to tackle a running defensive tackle. Like, I mean, the dude's
Yeah.
a defensive lineman, and he's running downhill with 4.3, 4.4 speed.
Yes,
I mean, he is running towards a linebacker. Like, they scheme him onto linebackers. Like they will be like, oh yeah, you'll just take on that small 6'1", 250-pound guy. You'll just take him on. You'll run him over, and then you're going to outrun the safety. Like, that's so stupid. Like that is another thing that should be illegal. Like he's just 6'4" or 5", 240 pounds, 50 pounds, and he's a freight train. Nobody's going to want to tackle that guy.
well, Herschel
40 times
Walker
a
was
game.
real big,
Yeah,
and he got his yards.
yeah.
And oh my goodness, the Eagles had a player like that. Oh, geez, I'm trying to think of a name. Since back in the 70s, but he was a tank. And so did the Giants. Very recently had a really big guy.
Yeah,
Until
they had Brandon Jacobs before Saquon got there.
Brandon
Yeah.
Jacobs, that's what I'm thinking of. He's a monster.
Yeah,
And the man who really stood out above all else, was a really big guy, was Eric Dickerson. Man, I used to love to watch this guy play.
He was big, but he had finesse, which is like
Up the middle, around
crazy.
the edge, acceleration. It was just crazy. And you get those knees up and run like a deer. You know, he just run right by everybody. I didn't see anybody catch him from behind. And it's just, watch this guy play. And who did he play for? The Rams?
Yeah.
And they weren't champions. Because they depended on him.
Yeah. His nickname is the Rambassador because he's like the social media guy for the
Depended
Rams.
on him. Same thing with Derrick Henry. Depended on him. Same thing with the old Houston Oilers.
Earl Campbell.
Earl Campbell.
Earl Campbell. I
Big
call him
legs.
the Skull Brother because he had that commercial. He had a skull commercial.
Oh, yep.
Right. And he was a black guy with a skull commercial. And he called himself the Skull Brother. You know, and maybe that sold a shitload of skull. Who knows? You know, I certainly didn't buy any, but
Yeah.
yeah.
What is skull? Isn't that like dip?
Yeah.
It's a snub.
Tobacco. Yeah, you just
Little pinch between your cheek and gum.
Yeah.
And tobacco kind of leaks out.
burns a hole in your lip.
And it just burns a hole in your lip. It ruins your mouth. It ruins your stomach. You know, but
It's fun.
He's a skull, brother.
Sorry, you're not going to get any sponsorship from the tobacco industry.
Yeah. So there's no skull or Copenhagen. Sorry, guys. No. But
Yeah.
You know what? Speaking of sponsorships, did you see that the beloved Heinz Field is Acrisure Field now?
I did.
How do you feel about that? What is, on behalf of Steeler Nation, you not speak for everyone?
I know. I am now Lord of all.
Yeah, you're now Lord of the Steelers fans. How do you feel about that?
Not happy. Not happy. I get it. It's a business thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's a boat ton of money for licensing fees.
Yeah.
Like they're getting boat tons of money, and it's, you know, hey, if Acrisure is them.
Acrisure.
I don't even make sure I'm pronouncing it because I'm just in denial. I mean, if they're willing to step up and pay, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, it's years ago. You know, Montana. I don't know, old guys played in Candlestick Park. You know, and then they moved, or they renamed it. It wasn't Candlestick Park, but it was still Candlestick Park.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the announcers wouldn't call it that, but the fans did. You know, and it's going to be that way in Pittsburgh. It's always going to be Heinz Field.
The LA Coliseum. It's always
Yeah.
going to be the LA Coliseum.
It's always going to be the Coliseum. Yep.
You always have the Rose Bowl there.
Yeah.
Always. And that's the LA Coliseum. You know, and it's always going to be that way. There's the other one up in Green Bay. You know,
Lambeau.
Yeah, I don't think they're ever going to have a closed-in stadium.
No.
That's the Green Bay Packers. You go up there, you're going to freeze your buns off. You know, they're not going to have a dome.
And the Heinz company is just, it made sense. They're from the area. I mean, it's a Pittsburgh company. It's not like, you know, it's not like the Heinz was a company from, you know, who knows where that bought the rights and we had success and we liked the company and now we're just going to switch the name.
Yeah.
No, Heinz helped build Pittsburgh as much as the Steelers. I mean, it was just one of those things that it makes, you know, you're still going to walk in the stadium and go get your hot dog and you're still going to be pumping out, you know, Heinz mustard and Heinz ketchup.
Yeah.
You
Relish.
know, relish. It's still, they're still in the stadium. So,
Yeah.
you know, just because the name across the board is gone, you know, and
the company,
credit to Heinz and credit to the Steelers. You know, people were like, oh, you know, they're taking down the bottles on the outside. Well, they did come to an agreement that they're still going to have Heinz displayed inside the stadium. Mm-hmm. You know, when they get, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but when the Steelers, you know, would be on the field and they get within, you know, in the 20-yard line, they get in the red zone. It's the Heinz red zone.
Okay.
And these little ketchup bottles would tip on the sides of the scoreboard and they would turn red.
Oh, that's dope.
Not sure if they're still going to do the ketchup bottles, but it's still going to be called in the stadium during the game the Heinz red zone.
Right.
So they're still with it sponsoring the team. They're still there.
Yeah.
They're just, you know, they're not on the board out front. They're not going to be, you know, you're not going to hear, you know, Aikman and Joe Buck and welcome to, you know, Heinz Field. Now it's going to welcome to Akron Stadium.
Yeah.
You know,
Acrisure.
you're still going to see that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but it's still, you know, you can call it whatever you want. It's still going to, you know, my hat.
From the turn.
It's a Reading Indians hat.
Yeah.
because I'm a Cleveland fan. Sorry, I'm a Cleveland Indians fan.
That's
right, yeah.
But they're the Guardians. I get it. Someday, one day, I'll call them the Guardians, but you're still going to hear it fly out of my mouth. They're the Cleveland Indians, and it's a hard thing.
Really? That's
It's
their
a-
name now, the Guardians?
They're the Guardians. Yeah.
I would have named them the Redskins just for the hell of it.
Actually, to go on a sidetrack. Sorry. To go,
No,
on,
no,
to, go,
yeah.
to go on a side, because now we're going to go away from the Steelers, and we're going to go away from football. When they said they were going to change the name, I totally get it. I understand the world we live in. You know, whether you agree with it or not, I understand why they're doing it. Okay, I really wanted them to be the Cleveland Spiders.
Okay.
Because before they were the Indians, they used to change names of the team like constantly back in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
For a while, they were I think they were the Blue Waves. They were something else of that. But Spiders was one of the names that they were that really stuck. And I was like, that's kind of, you don't hear of a team called the
was gonna
Spiders.
say,
Like there's no college teams, there's no other sports. The Spiders. I mean, that's kind of cool. You could do the spider and the baseball, and the contrast is good.
Yeah.
You could really run with this, and it's a historical thing, And then they went Guardians, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah. You know what though? The spiders. I think I might have like a little bit of arachnophobia because you said the spiders, and I was like, I got like a little chill. I was like, oh my god.
Well,
yeah, like spiders, like the little. You ever hear like like they have that?
Yeah.
They make. Can you imagine doing that like in the stadium, and someone has like arachnophobia, like freak out? That'd be kind of funny.
See, we put the name itself
You just
puts
put
fear into
fear.
people.
they just sneak out. Like you never see a spider coming. Like you just see it after it's already where it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you just see a spider. It's like, oh, it's like right next to me, right? No, that actually would have been cool because there's nothing named the spiders. There's not a lot of insects really.
Yeah.
There's the hornets in basketball. That's it, maybe.
Yeah.
Like everything else is like the Eagles, like
And
the Commanders,
and
which
it's
is
so
also stupid.
and you want to go different. You want to go unique. Like the hockey team in Seattle, they're the Kraken.
That one, that one's
that's
cool.
like, yeah, it's cool. It's
the
different.
Kraken.
Nobody else. That's what they could have done in Cleveland. But and there's nobody else called the Guardians. But I don't know. It doesn't have it has a connection to the city because I don't know if you guys know the reason why it's the Guardians.
No, I don't know.
The river runs through the Cuyahoga runs through Cleveland, and right through the middle of town.
Right.
And there is a bridge that crosses the Cuyahoga. And it's one of those old bridges, been built 1 billion years ago, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's out of stone. And on both ends of the bridge, they have statues built into, and they're the Guardians.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
If you ever seen the movie Major League,
No, I have not.
it's an '80s movie, but it's about the Cleveland Indians, the comedy movie about the Indians. But the very first shot of the movie. It's different shots from around the city, but the very first shot they have is
the Guardian.
Guardians on the bridge.
Okay,
Oh,
so
So
that's
wow.
cool.
I mean,
Okay.
so they are part of Cleveland history. They are part of the city kind of thing, which is why they went that route.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
It
Yeah, that
the
does make
name
sense.
the name's not catchy. It doesn't roll off your tongue. It's
Yeah, it's probably going to take
but it's going to take a little bit.
like 5 to 10 years before people are like, oh, it just becomes accepted.
People are like, they ask me like, oh, you're Indians fans. Like, are you going to get new Guardian stuff? I'm like, no.
No, like why would I do such a
I have
blasphemous
a
thing?
closet full of Indian stuff I need to wear before it falls off my body before I replace it.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
I got this hat for 10 years. It's broken
exactly.
in. It's my favorite hat.
Yeah. and that's the same thing as like if like going back to the Acrisure thing, if they change like the name of the Eagles Stadium, if I can't call it the Link anymore,
Oh,
I might kill myself because that's such an iconic, like everyone says I'm going to the Link, like, oh, we're here at the Link. Like it's synonymous, it's the Link.
But that
You know what I
was,
mean?
but see, that was the thing though. When you guys, before you played at the Link, and before the Phillies played it, they call it the Vault, don't they? Isn't that the nickname for it?
Yeah, the bank,
It's
the vault.
the bank, the Vault. Yeah, they played at the Vet, and the Vet was iconic, and it was this, and it was, but it didn't have a naming right, so it wasn't like the Vet was the Vet kind of thing.
Yeah.
it was like, oh, what are we gonna do? Well, they came up with, okay, we have a licensing thing, and we're gonna call it the Link. And it
that's
helped. It helped. We're building this new stadium, but we're not going to call it the Vet. We're going to call it this. And it was like, okay, we have something we can latch onto. But
The Link, yeah.
that's, Philadelphia is going to be in in that situation when what happens when Lincoln Financial stops?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the what is it, the Wells Fargo Center now?
Yeah, that's not even going to be they're building a new one.
Well, the Wells Fargo Center was when it was originally built was Core States or something
Something
when
like
it was,
that,
you know, when it replaced the Spectrum.
Thank God.
I love the Spectrum. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I got a special place in my heart for the Spectrum.
I've never I've never been to any one of those. I've seen the Wells Fargo Center. I've never heard about the Spectrum.
But I think it was originally Core State. It was some bank. Was the name
like
to it.
Wachovia or something like
Yeah, and then it was Wachovia, and then it was First Union. By the way, First Union was the best name for the place because they called it the FU Center.
Oh,
if that ain't Philly, where you playing it? We're playing at the FU Center. Right. Yeah, boy, bring it. That was it. That was the shit.
Damn,
that was the one. That was the thing. And then, now it's Wells Fargo, but you know. So I mean, the names are going to change, and when you're latched, when you're as and no one cared. No one said anything. You know, the Flyers fans, Sixers fans, they didn't, yell and scream and this and that. But I guarantee you, Lincoln Financial comes off the front of that, Eagles fans are they're gonna lose it.
It's blood in the streets.
Yeah.
They better grease up the polls because we're going to be climbing up them again.
You guys are going to know how the people in Pittsburgh felt, because that's just you're just invested in it. Well, it's just what you do.
Even when they changed Heinz Field, I was like. I was even telling I was watching it with Charles and I was watching it with my mom, and I was like inexplicably offended. Like I was just like offended. They were like, yeah, it's going to be Acrisure Stadium. I'm like, this is gross.
Where'd they get that name from?
Acrisure is like a financial technology company.
Is that their name? Acrisure?
Acrisure. ACRISURE.
Yeah.
Did I spell it right?
Yeah.
Hey.
Acrisure Stadium.
I'm a real fan. I know.
Right.
Yeah. No, but this Acrisure sucks. That's an awful name. I mean, sorry to the company. I'm probably never going to get sponsored by a financial
company. Scratch. Acrisure. Scratch.
Yeah.
First Union. Yeah. Scratch. FU. No. We don't want that.
Yeah. The link. There's still hope for. There's still hope for the link. But I don't know. I didn't like it because again, it's like a staple. Like whenever you hear somebody like I remember being down in Florida like when I was a kid, right? And people were like, "Oh yeah, like I'm from Pittsburgh. Like I grew up I grew up next by the Heinz Field." You're like, "Oh shit, okay, you're from Pittsburgh," or you know what I mean? Like it was just like a staple of Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? Or like I don't know. It doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like I don't even like saying the name, and I'm not really even like I would say that if I had to root for a team other than the Eagles, it's probably the Steelers, just because I don't. Like everything, like I just like Pennsylvania. Like I'm just a homer like that. So
ditto.
Yeah, like I'm just a homer. Like I'd rather, and the same thing with like the Olympics too. Is like I'm like heritage wise, I'm Puerto Rican, right? But then I saw that the woman who runs for Puerto Rico is from the U.S. I'm like, you traitor, bro. I'm like, how dare you? But I'm happy for her. But like, I'm just a homer when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I felt like. I was just offended. I didn't even like saying the name. I'm still going to call it Heinz Field. But what did you think about it?
I used to watch my baseball games at Scheid Park. When the Philadelphia Phillies played.
Yeah.
At 23rd and Hunting Park. That was Shibe, SHIBE Park.
Yeah.
And Philadelphia Athletics and then it became Connie Mack Stadium.
Oh my God.
The owner.
Damn.
The owner of the Philadelphia A's.
Yeah.
Player, coach, and owner of the Philadelphia Athletics. That's all he ever was.
That dude doesn't get cut. He's batting 120. We should send him down. No, he's the owner, dude. He's batting lead off.
It's like you try to fire him and then he fires you the next day.
I don't even think Connie Mack Stadium is there anymore.
Yeah. That's what I remember, like baseball being called. I remember like in Whitehall, they were like, they had a Connie Mack league for like little kids. I had no idea that had anything to do with Philly.
Connie Mack, his statue was outside of. Statue was also. They moved that statue when they wrecked the park. They moved it to the Baseball Hall of Fame. The statue of Connie Mack. And what he did for baseball. Just what that man did for baseball. Yeah. And he was all Philadelphia. He was all Philadelphia Athletics, and that's the only thing he ever did. He was a baseball player, and he was a coach, then he was an owner, and he was a Philadelphia icon.
So,
Then, of course, in football, it was Bert Bell, born and raised in Philadelphia. first NFL commissioner, And I'm used to listening to the Vet Stadium. That's where the Eagles won their championship in 1960. They won their championship in 1948 at Shibe Park, which was before Connie Mack Stadium. Okay, that's where I went to see it in 1949. I didn't see that game that was played in L.A. That was a deal when they beat the Rams. When they repeated and beat the Rams, 14-7.
High scoring game.
Oh,
high scoring game, yeah.
And I like Soldier Field, Veterans Stadium. I like these tribute to Americana, which is the country where we are, the red, white, and blue. And anything that's in tribute to that, Soldier Field is just a First World War term. Mm-hmm. And that comes out of 1919 when the boys came back. The soldiers came back from the First World War, the Doughboys and all. And they called that, and they called that Chicago Soldier Field in commemoration to our boys in the First World War. And it's still that way today, and I hope it never, ever changes.
Well, and that'll be the thing. I mean, if the Bears move,
man.
If the Bears move, I mean, they're gonna go the same, and that's what happens. Like the Steelers for a long time, it was Three Rivers. For Philadelphia, it was the Vet. They were these stadiums, and then when they build the new ones, we need to get some revenue. Name the stadium. Now it's naming rights. So the minute the Bears move and they're out of Soldier Field.
What are they going to name it?
You think the Steelers fans were upset? Holy cow! The Bears fans, they might burn the city down.
Yeah,
if they don't, if whoever does the name, and I know they've said the idea is they're going to try and renovate Soldier Field, but I mean, how many times can you renovate it?
Yeah, they've done it 6 times already.
And I know the one group has already said they've already got a spot for it outside the city in the whole 9 yards. But if whoever does the naming for it, they need to be smart about it. Like you said earlier, know your audience. Know the fans. They got to call it Soldier Field by, and then their name is the secondary. Their company is the secondary,
or it's got to be like Lou Malinati's or something.
Yeah,
like that. It's got to be like the pizza or something.
They've got to incorporate it, because if they walk in there and they're not something, like for the Vet, Lincoln Financial, they're part of Philadelphia. They're part of Philadelphia. They're not something. People in Acrisure, nobody knows who the hell that is in Pittsburgh. Yeah. You got to bring it that connection. If you're not naming it Soldier Field, you got to have some connection to Chicago. Because otherwise, the Bears fans will not accept it.
I don't think it can be Capone Stadium, though. I think they'll get away with that.
That's such a badass name.
That would be more like where the White Sox are. That's more that side of town.
But,
But how did you feel about when they when the link was built recently, in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah. So in the last 20 years.
Yeah. So how did you feel weird when they moved from the Vet to the link?
Yeah.
Did you have an odd feeling?
Well,
because I was too young. I was 4 or 5.
Mr. Philadelphia was Mr. Eagle, and that guy's name was Chuck Bednarik. And he went to school right here in Bethlehem. And when they played for the city championship and the state championship, that was played at the Veterans Stadium. That was Pennsylvania University's football stadium.
Still there.
And, yes, it is. Penn uses that stadium as their college stadium.
Yeah.
And then Chuck Bednarik went to Pennsylvania University.
Yeah. Did he go to Penn State or UPenn?
4 years, Penn.
Wow.
That was the football college. The Ivy Leagues were huge before and just after the Second World War.
Yeah.
Okay, long before the Auburns and the Michigans and all the LSU and all that stuff. Long before that. The Ivy League was the big football conference. Cornell and Harvard and Princeton,
Dartmouth,
and Penn, and all of that.
But, Yale Harvard was actually a good game.
Yeah,
Now there's 10 people there watching.
Yeah, geez, yeah. And the stadiums were packed, and the Army Navy game was played at the Municipal Stadium in Philadelphia. That seated 100,000 people. That was built by the city of Philadelphia for one game a year, the Army-Navy football game. called the Municipal Stadium right along the Delaware.
Oh, my God.
That was a big horseshoe stadium, 100,000 people, and they jammed that once a year. So Chuck Bednarik played all of his home games, in college at the Vet.
Yeah.
And he played 17 years professional games at the Vet, all of the home games. This guy did not move football stadiums. His home football stadium was the same stadium for 23 years. And so
That's nuts.
So that's and the older you get, and I guess I might classify myself as old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like change. I mean, I'm very resistant to change.
Yeah.
And I got a 10-year-old car, and I got a 39-year-old house, and I don't like change.
Yeah.
And you're not going to move me out of here. I'm going to move out through that door feet first, and I just don't like change. And once I see something that I like or I enjoy, the Cleveland Indians, that's an American staple. That's a tribute to Native Americans. The Washington Redskins, Kansas City Chiefs. These are really cool names. I mean, you could go with the Akron Savages. That's a really cool name. You can't help Akron. That sounds kind of corny. It's a steel city. It's an industrial city. That's not a great name. I don't know who they named that after. Or say went Toledo. It's his name's after an Italian immigrant, I guess. But anyway, these Indian names, are really cool. They're a tribute to Native Americans, and I think we went the other way with that. I think we never should have got away from that. The Redskins are a damn good name. The Savages are a good name. The Vikings are a cool name. Somebody come out with the word Giants. That was so cool. Really big, tough people. Vikings, oh, man. Eagle, the symbol of America. The bear, which is the symbol of Russia. Teddy Roosevelt wanted to make the bear the symbol of America. Hence, we have the teddy bear.
Yeah.
In honor of his bear. He wanted to change from the eagle to the bear.
No.
Instead,
I like Teddy, but no.
Instead, he got Teddy Bear, which is the first toy any child, male or female, gets as a baby. A teddy bear.
Unless your name is Jason Thomas, then I got an alligator. That's what I got. I got an alligator that I would wrestle with.
I got you a teddy bear.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
No, mom got me an alligator.
And mine not have been the first.
Yeah, mom got me an alligator that I had since I was like 2 or 3. And that thing had real scales and everything, and I would sleep on it. I
got a teddy bear for Victoria.
Yeah.
All of my children and all of my grandchildren. Yeah. Teddy bear. And that's how famous it is, and that's where it came from.
Yeah. And the whole, the Indians had to change it. I think the Indians' problem was the logo. When they first changed the names of the Indians, they didn't have the Chief Wahoo logo. That wasn't the character. Like they had a C on their uniform, like they started to recently, and they still do.
Everyone has a C.
It turned into this logo because they did a contest, and it's actually, I think it was like a 17-year-old kid came up with the first Chief Wahoo, and they were like, oh yeah, cool. And they tweaked it a little bit and cleaned it up, and and they ran with it. And people actually started protesting the Indians in the 70s.
Yeah.
So, and I think it was because the logo,
Yeah.
You can do it. I mean, you can use a Native American name. The Florida State Seminoles.
Seminoles, yeah.
They have been associated with the Seminole Nation forever. Yeah. And the way they did it was they went to the Seminole Indians and they're like, this is what we want to do.
Yeah.
Advise us. Tell us what's right. Tell us what's wrong, because we don't want to go out there and do something that's going to disrespect you.
Yeah.
And they have this partnership with the Seminole Nation. And, when they have their, I don't want to call it a mascot, the representative that rides out on the horse, in garb. That's authentic garb. And it's because the Seminoles told them, this is what you do, and this is how you act, and this is what you do. Like, if you do this on the field, we wouldn't do that. That's not acceptable to us. So you can do it. You can make it work. Yeah. It's just when you do like the Cleveland Indians, you come up with this ridiculous caricature that, looks very close to caricatures of African Americans from the early years. Yeah,
I can blackface.
Yeah, the blackface. Yeah. I mean, I can really you can kind of understand why people are upset about it. And in the Cleveland organization years ago, okay, they phased out Chief Wahoo.
Yeah,
that's
is that the one that had the big smile or whatever?
Yeah, it's this one.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's him.
Right.
Actually, big smile on it.
I actually liked that. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, but I mean, we're also not Native American, so
yeah, right. I'm not from my viewpoint. It looks fun and this and that, and that's fine. And I get people were upset about it, and Cleveland went the way they phased out the logo.
Yeah,
but I think it had gotten too big, and there was nothing that was going to stop the fervor short of changing the name.
Yeah. And plus, when you have 60,000 fans that regularly come to games, and then those fans goes back and they say they have 2 kids, and then it just doubles and stuff. But you know what though? Even I remember a little while ago when the Redskins stuff first came out, that was 2017-ish, is when they were talking about changing the name. And the people weren't even a lot of at least the Native American people that I had talked to they were we don't even really care about that kind of stuff. We actually just kind of want health care. And we just kind of want to not live on a reservation. You know what I mean? We just want to, how about we not be in poverty? You know what I'm saying? And I was like, you know what? That's a good point. But then I remember I had a teacher in high school, Mr. Cahalan, right? And he was also, but you have to realize too, that if a team came out, if they were known as the Long Island Blackies, then people would be like, what, dude? They'd be like, yeah, that's not or if the MLB started a Negro League again, you'd be like, this isn't going over well. It kind of, you can see if you kind of backtrack just a few years, you can see I see where people are coming from. I understand what this is. And at the time, the Negro League was huge. It was it was the MLB, and then during the segregation, you had the Negro League, and people would watch it. They were fans. They would sell out these stadiums, and it was a good thing because you had, these young black people from, every corner of America that could go and they could play a game that they loved. But now it's just, we wouldn't even think about segregating today, Yeah. And so I guess when you put it in the context of today, it puts it into perspective, but then at the same time, we also have to look at history through the context of history. We have to look at it through was this acceptable at the time? And I'm sure in the 70s it was it was always okay to have an Indian logo, and again we all are oh, it looks kind of cool, it's kind of an awesome thing, but we don't know where the actual people of that race or ethnicity, how they identify with it. So I see, but I kind of see both sides of it in a way, I guess.
It all comes from the hippie movement of the 60s.
Yeah.
When they started questioning everything.
Yeah.
And everything was either okay or it was offensive. The word black is night. Night is black. Black equals shadows. Black is bad. Sunlight is sun. Sun is good. It makes flowers grow. It gives us sunshine, vitamin D. It is light. It is safe. The bad guys in the movies back in the 30s, in the 40s, and in the 50s, the bad guys wore black. They rode a black horse, and they had a black hat. And the name and the leader of the bad guys was Blackie. We're going to take it to Blackie. So every B cowboy movie out there, the bad guy was named either Blackie or Trent. They were the only Trent. Trent. They're the only 2 black guys out there.
That's such a white name, though.
Right. Now the
Blackie or Chad.
Now the good guys wore a white hat, they wore a white horse, and a lot of white in their garment. The Lone Ranger. This guy wore a set of light tan tights. That's kind of weird when you look at it, okay?
Yeah.
And then this guy came out of the 50s. Clayton Moore, the Lone Ranger. White horse, white hat, and so forth. So black became bad, and white became right or good. That's where the separation took place. And that separation, bled into our society, okay, into skin color. black was bad and white was good, which is wrong. It should have never made that leap.
Yeah.
Somehow it did, and as I was growing up, if you were a black kid and we played cowboys and Indians, you couldn't be an Indian because you weren't red. Well, nobody else was red either. So that means the white kids could be red, okay, and the black kids were the cowboys, the same as most of the white kids were cowboys. So we played cowboys and Indians. Oh, okay. So, and that's just the way it's separated. If you weren't white, you couldn't be an Indian because you weren't red. You were black. So you had to be either a cowboy, and if you were a cowboy, you were a bad guy. You were the robber and the thief and all of this stuff. And the white kid, well, he was Sunset Carson. He was Hopalong Cassidy. He was the Lone Ranger. And the Lone Ranger was a black man, by the way.
Yeah, they're coming out with a movie.
His name is...
him.
Oh. And if... I don't want to get off the subject. But who played Lethal Weapon? Who was a black guy that played Lethal Weapon?
Danny Glover.
He's my Reeves. If he was younger, that's Bass Reeves. He's big, and just stick a handlebar mustache on this guy, and he has the persona, the character to play Bass Reeves as the Lone Ranger, apprehending 2,400 bad guys, former slave, as an Oklahoma Ranger.
What a goon! He's part of the goon squad. That guy.
This guy was bad
What a dude.
news. Right, he shot and killed 600 people with his badge on. Arrested another 18 and 2,400 altogether. He had 8 children. All right, and his good friend was a Native American Indian named Tonto. So in the 30s, when television came out in 1939 and the 39 World's Fair, okay, they didn't feel that America was ready for a black hero. And so comes along Clayton Moore with a black mask, okay, and everything else was white or light colored. He was a Lone Ranger because they felt America could buy that as a hero. He was a person that was put on all the cereal boxes and all the cowboy uniforms that you could buy. You could buy Lone Ranger pistols and all this stuff with the Lone Ranger. Anyway, that's where all that came from.
Yeah.
So we've evolved into a kinder, gentler America today.
Yeah.
The black can be good. Black can be great, right? Black can be all of this here positive stuff. It doesn't have to be a shadow anymore, And this is a better America. I think we've evolved through all of that. And I'm really surprised to see Cleveland change the name from Indian to anything else. This is in honor of, like the Seminoles, this is in honor of the Native American people. Boston Redskins. That's where the name came from because they were the Boston Redskins before they moved to Washington. Yeah. And they were the Redskins because white people painted their faces red and stuck a feather in their hair, that wig they called hair, okay, and threw all this tea off aboard ship. And that's where the name come from. That didn't even come from an American Indian.
Yeah.
That came from people impersonating American Indians. Yeah. And should we honor that? Sure, because we were demonstrating against taxes. No representation in Parliament. What are you taxing us for? That's a good argument, and that's a way of propagating that argument at that time in Boston. And I think we should honor that by saying Washington Redskins. Why not? Why change? And I'm so resistant to change. I mean,
yeah.
It's like changing Cadillac.
And I think it kind of goes back to, you can do it. You just have to do it the right way. I mean, and the Cleveland Indians went with the name because at the time the Boston Braves were successful. Yeah. So they were kind of linking it in that way. And it's fine. You can use a name, but I think what you can't appropriate it is what I think the problem is that,
What do you mean by appropriate? I'm not challenging you. I just want to know.
No,
your thoughts.
I'm trying to word it the right way.
Sorry about that.
Until it makes sense. You just can't say, okay, we're gonna okay, it's this, and if it has to do, and because back in the 30s, the 1915, 1930s, whatever, it didn't matter. You changed the name and that's what it was. But nowadays, you have to be considerate of who your audience is, who you're speaking to. You can't just appropriate something, whether it's heritage, whether it's namesake, whether it's whatever, and say this is what we're doing. I always like to throw it out there as you don't hear Irish people protesting at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Irish people are like, oh, you make us all sound like we're all leprechauns and all we do is fight, and this and that. Yeah. It's like, okay, that's.
Wow, that's
they understand to get it, and I'm sure some people don't like it, whatever.
Yeah.
But you can't just roll out there, like Florida State. You can't just roll out there and say, okay, we're going to be the Seminoles, and you're going to run out there and throw a teepee out there on the 50-yard line, and you're going to throw smoke signals and this and that, and and basically just appropriate what you think it should be. And then people were like, wait a minute, we live this. That's not what it's supposed to be. You can do it. You can do it the right way. You can, if you want to be called the Redskins because of this, you have to from the start point, you have to make it work. You can't just do it. And the problem is that it's like with the Cleveland Indians. Protests started back in the 70s.
Yeah.
50 years later, people were still protesting in this.
And
it got to the point that Cleveland couldn't do anything but scrap the whole thing.
Change it.
Because they changed the logo, which was the most offensive thing. And at that point, the beast was out of the box. It was too big. It had taken on a life of its own. There was no end result other than change the name. And right now the Atlanta Braves are still the Atlanta Braves. The Kansas City Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Yeah. And you hear protests, you hear people say they should change the name, this and that, but there isn't that wholesale something to latch onto. With Washington Commanders, it was the Redskins. It's like along the lines, it was Redskins became the offensive word. You can't use that because it's an offensive word. Yeah. And I don't know if it is or it isn't. I'm not a Native American. I don't live in that world.
Yeah,
is it true? Is it perceived?
There's no Native American out there that's offended.
I don't know that. I don't know that. And I can't say that it is or it isn't.
Well,
but somewhere along the line, that became the accepted truth. So at that point, when that became the accepted truth to everyone, there was no going back from anything other than changing that name. And that's what happened in Cleveland. It built itself to the point where whatever it was that offended, getting rid of that wasn't enough. You needed to wholesale change it from the jump.
Yeah. When I saw the logo of Cleveland of Chief Yahoo, I saw an American Indian with a smile on his face. You never see that. That's because they were persecuted and they were hunted, only because they were getting ripped off. That's not going to make people smile. So maybe that's what they said. Maybe that's what they said. Yeah. We're making fun of a chief by calling him Yahoo, and by putting the Scoopy grin on his face. Maybe that's what they said, and I can understand that. That could have been serious. The Viking is not smiling. All right. The eagle is not smiling. I never saw an eagle smile anyway.
They don't have no teeth.
They just eat things.
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty apart. Okay, I've never see a giant smile, like this. So I guess the cartoon was probably the turnoff. Although the cartoon's cool. I think that's a really neat looking cartoon. It didn't mean that to me. It didn't mean like somebody was making fun of the American Indian. Okay, it was to them it was a damn good way of life. and they didn't believe in owning anything. You know, and we talk about owning land. I own this little piece of property out back. Have I touched it in 39 years? No. Have I walked it in 39 years? 2 or 3 times. What in the hell do I own it for? It's there when I see it. It's mine as I see it. Okay? Okay? It's yours as you see it, and it's yours as you see it. And this is how the American Indian felt. We share the land. Oh, wait a minute. Communistic, what do they call that philosophy coming in here?
Marxism.
We'll share it. We'll hunt on it.
Socialism.
We'll farm on it. In England, if you shoot a deer on somebody else's property, it's their deer. Yeah. Well, we don't feel that way. The Indian didn't feel that way. Nobody owns it. Can you own the sky? Well, we're trying to. It's called air rights, which is really getting fuzzy. Okay.
Yeah.
We're trying to own the sky. We're giving that a shot. Okay.
And we're the closest ones because we could just enforce it.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. And then they were okay with sharing. And there are communities in Texas, communities where Indians and black folks and Germans, okay, are sharing the land, and they're all getting along great. In October, there's an Oktoberfest down there. It's south of Laredo. No, it can't be south of Laredo. It's south of Austin, Texas. Okay, and they do an Oktoberfest for 3 weeks every year. And you'll see the community doing the Yompa band. You'll see them doing powwows. Okay, and you'll see them doing African traditional dances and food and all this stuff down there. And they still get along as a mixed community. There have never been any problems, social problems in that community. Before I die, I'd like to see that. And that's the way it should be. There was in that community down there, there was a white person came through with 8 wagons tacked on back of each other, full of black people in cages, and they were selling these people. So they came into this community. They killed the dude that was selling the people. They freed the black people, and they showed them how to create a home and a garden and a farm and how to hunt and how to survive. And that's how that community was founded, by sharing. And that community still exists today. And I would definitely like to see that. And this is what we need to celebrate today. Not so much the Indians and the Redskins and the Braves and the Savages and all this other stuff. You know, that's not even window dressing. That's honoring the American, Native American. We also need to celebrate Bass Reeves, Biddy Mason. I could go on and on. You know, and this community down there in south of Austin, Texas. That's what we need to celebrate. That is American. That is truly American stuff. Jazz is American. You're not going to hear that anywhere else but America. And you won't hear it good anywhere else but New Orleans. And that's where they mix. Yeah, that's just stuff is just absolutely awesome down there. They call it Dixieland jazz. Jazz and American country is Dixieland down there. To me, it's the most comical type of music. That's where every instrument is playing something different, and it fits. It's just comical to me, you know, and that's the truly American stuff that we need to be celebrating, including the Indians and the Redskins and the Braves and the Seminoles and and Chief Yahoo and I don't say Chief Yahoo. I'd rather see Sitting Bull or something like that there, or Crazy Horse. Well, there's a caricature for you, Crazy Horse. Make a caricature out of that. I think that would go. I really do.
Yeah, but that dude is a death stare.
Anyway,
did you ever see that guy's picture?
Yeah,
Crazy Horse. He's just like staring at the camera. He looks like he's trying to kill you, right? And that picture was taken 200 years ago.
Well,
that was nuts.
Well, that's why they called him that.
Yeah,
you know, they were very matter of fact people. If your name was Gentle Fawn, that means you were a female, and you were a very gentle person, right? And if you were named something else, it was really what you did, Crazy Horse, you know, or they named you one of their own names, Okay. Sitting Bull. I guess the guy didn't move around a lot, and he was big. I don't know.
That's probably why I didn't move. There's just a lot of stuff involved with that. But
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, again, unless we have a Native American that we can talk to about it, then I guess we're never really gonna know. Just us three sitting here. But I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, the Guardians did what they had to do. They felt like they had to do, and the community rallied around and did something that they felt was necessary as well. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't hate it. It's just that's just the way things are now, I guess. But there's a couple things that we have here to talk about outside of the Acrisure change,
okay.
And namely, I think sort of staying in the past a little bit. Dick Vermeil. This is what he said before he went into the Hall of Fame. He said, "I'm going into the Hall of Fame as an Eagle." He said, "Philadelphia is my home team. It's where I live, and I deeply identify with the community." So even though he coached the Greatest Show on, was it the Greatest Show on Turf?
Yeah.
Coached them. He said he still lives in Philly. I think I have an idea where he lives, but I'm not going to say it on here because I don't want nobody to find Dick Vermeil for some reason. But I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool. And he said that he couldn't talk about Ron Jaworski because he didn't want to cry in front of everyone. And I thought that was kind of cool. And I think even did you guys see last year when was it Jimmy Johnson when that big dude, the biggest dude I've ever seen in my entire life, just comes with this huge deep voice, and he shows up and he's like, "You're going to the Hall of Fame. Thank you for what you do for the game." Right? You see, Troy Aikman was crying, in the booth watching it.
Yeah.
You see that last year? I never realized how much a coach and a player really bond, right? Until obviously it's there because you spend. As a man, you probably spend more time with your coach than you do your own dad, right? If you're playing at that level. But it's just kind of crazy how deep the connection is with these guys, and it kind of makes you feel bad for guys like Josh Rosen and people that just don't get a fair shot because they just don't have consistency at the coaching position. And it kind of you see the reason they were so successful is because they had such a connection, right? And they were so I wouldn't say involved with each other because maybe it was they weren't the best of friends, but they have such an immense respect. But you almost feel bad if you have 4 or 5 different coaches in your tenure at a team, it's you never really get a chance to build that. And you see why chemistry is so important, in trying to win a game. Because it's you got 53 men together, and you're trying to get 22 of those guys to play together. It's that's tough. That's a tough thing, and you see how much work those guys really put in to get to that point. I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting, just that relationship. It's kind of crazy if you think about it.
Well, let me see. There was Joe Gibbs and
Doug Williams,
and Joe Theismann. There was Marino, and the name of the Miami coach slips my mind. It shouldn't.
Don
Shula.
Shula.
Those two guys were brothers, and every day there is a meeting between the quarterback and the head coach.
No.
They set the game plan for each and every game, for each and every practice, and they have their offensive meetings, they have their defensive meetings, and they have their quarterback meetings. And the coach would meet with their second and third string quarterback. They would meet every day with their first string quarterback. And they would plan, and they would watch films, and they would go over the playbook, and they would go to the board. And do they form a bond between Jimmy Johnson and Troy Aikman? Yeah. And the Troy Aikman story, when Barry Switzer took over, and according to Troy Aikman, we barely won that Super Bowl that year. We were not as good a football team under Barry as we were under Jimmy Johnson.
You still won a Super Bowl.
These
I
are
barely won one. You still got a bowl ring though. Some guys don't get that in their whole life.
That's one of those things where I could have coached that team and won a Super Bowl.
They were that
That's
good.
Jimmy Johnson's. Jimmy Johnson is the coach of that team that won, but he doesn't get the ring or the credit for it.
right.
Wow.
He named his
That sucks.
He named his boat 3 rings, and he only got 2. Jimmy Johnson. That's the name of his boat, 3 rings. That was his team.
Well, Jimmy Johnson won at every level, though.
And even Troy, in his own words, Barry Switzer said, I coach college and this and that, and they're boys. You guys are men. You know what to do. Get the hell out there and do it. And that was his huge motivational speech. Well, I'm sure that meant something to some. I kind of like that because personally, I get to know my job so well that I don't want nor need any supervision or coaching. I like that. I like to be dependent on for those results, not just a meal on the table, but to be the best at whatever you do. Okay, so I kind of like that. But that didn't ring true with everybody. Okay, Michael Irvin didn't have as good a year. Neither did Harper. Neither did Emmett. Good enough to win. Okay, good enough to win that Super Bowl. But I think they went 10-6 that year. And they're used to going 13-3 and 14-2. So they got division, okay, and they got through the playoffs, obviously, and they got to the Super Bowl. But Troy said, if we would have had, he said, if Jimmy Johnson didn't leave, we would have had at least 3 more bowls. And that was Troy's words when I saw in Football Life Troy Aikman. And that's exactly what he said. He said the year after that, the year after, I don't know who coached the second year. Did Barry Switzer coach the second year?
Switzer, I don't know how long he coached, but he was there for a few years.
Okay. But the second year, he said, I was so upset with this team. I was so upset with their performance. I was so upset with the defense. I was just ripping everybody up. Because I left the game because I just got tired of it. I just got tired of seeing people just show up. I got sick of that. And we lost to teams that no way we should have blown out. It's just and he didn't mention who the teams were because Troy's just a classy guy.
Yeah.
He said, but if you look back, they lost against the Detroit Lions, and they haven't had a good team since the middle 50s and Bobby Lane and Joe Schmidt and Night Train Lane, and people like that. Then they had a championship caliber team, and they won 2 championships in the mid 50s, with those people. And they haven't had that good of a team, even with Barry Sanders. They had Barry Sanders. Did they have Barry Sanders with who's the quarterback now of the Rams?
Oh, Stafford?
Did they have Sanders and Stafford at the same time with Calvin Johnson? No. Okay, that would have put them over the top because really good people do make other people better. I've heard this, and then I never really had an opinion on it years. It doesn't take anybody to make me better. I'm just going to be the best I can be because that's how I get up in the morning. And I always believed that everybody should be like that. But then as I got older and I realized, but everybody's not. They're just not that way. If they have somebody to look up to on that team, which is a real standout, they're going to be as good as that person. So are they going to play above their head to be as good as that person? No. They're going to play as good as they can be to be as good as that person. Because if they were playing above their head, they'd never get there. I'll never be 5'5". And how can I play above my head? I think that's really way off. Okay. Yeah. I can be as good as I can be. And as long as I can satisfy myself that I can be. And that's in business, and that's on the football field, and that's as a father, as a breadwinner, a homeowner, a husband. That was always kind of important to me. And that's just the way I grew up. And so I don't like that where people are going to play above their heads. No, I think other people can make you better because they can make you study better and they can make you put it out there. All these intangibles that come in, that's what lights the fire in you. The design. Everybody has enough talent to play professional football. You wouldn't be there. Everybody has the potential to be great because this is what you can grow into. And what puts you there is the intangibles. It's the hunger, the thirst, whatever you want to call it, the aggressiveness, the swagger, anything you want to call it that puts you where you at your best, not over the top. At your, there's such thing as 101%. That's idiocy. There's 100%. Anything that puts you there is intangible. If you didn't have talent and potential, you wouldn't be there in the first place. You have that. These intangibles put you over the top. And I think this is what Calvin Johnson and Matt Stafford and Barry Sanders together would have done to the Lions. Because this is what Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irwin did. Harper never be in the Hall of Fame, but he was at his very, very best, and he was damn good because of the people that he played with. And we got this. They got this big man from the 49ers who won 3 Super Bowls with Dallas and 2 with the 49ers. He's got a fistful of Super Bowls. Who's this huge man? He's a huge defensive man.
Yeah.
Damn, I know who you're talking about too.
Yeah, I had it and I lost it.
Big bald guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge man. And Jimmy Johnson was after this guy. Oh, my God, yes. He's just, he puts our defense over the top because he made everybody better.
He was crazy, though.
Because he kicked guys in the ass. That's what he did.
But that's the thing, like you were saying, with Vermeil, he couldn't talk about Jaws because he had that special connection.
Yeah.
And you'll have coaches that can motivate a team, but your really good coaches, they don't motivate all 53 men. No. They find the leaders. They motivate the leaders, and they have it trickle. You know?
Yeah.
The great example is when the Giants signed Coach Coughlin.
Oh, yeah.
They, players, coaches, butted heads. It was a fight. It was ugly. It was bloodshed. And the minute Coughlin and Strahan found a common ground, that team turned around.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it takes. If you can find the right people, and it doesn't even have to be the quarterback, like Coughlin with Strahan, Parcells with the Giants was LT. He had a special relationship with Sims, but nothing like he's got with LT. And he knew if I can get LT, and we think the same, we're pointed in the same direction, then it can spread.
You can get Banks. Banks made the Hall of Fame.
You say the whole you look at leadership like a pyramid, where your head coach is here and it all trickles down. It's flip it. Your head coach is down here at the bottom. He's raising up somebody, 1 or 2 guys. They're raising up 1 or 2 guys. And if you can filter that, because can you motivate 53 guys all at one time?
Definitely not.
You might be able to do it.
Yeah.
But you're not going to do it long term.
Yeah.
You're never going to do it alone.
Yeah.
Always got to bring that team into it, and you've always got to get everybody to buy in, because the second you start losing guys, like Switzer went to Dallas, you start losing, you lose the pieces, and then it all falls apart.
I did the same thing, by the way. And Breeze rushed in, and we both were like,
"Oh!"
I thought somebody was over. So we both looked over.
It's the ghost moving the microphone.
Yeah. He's back. Shit.
Well, when I was in human
He's
resources,
a Cowboy fan. He's mad.
I had the pleasure of being a human resource manager and teaching SMC supervisory management courses, for the American Management Association in seminar. And my feeling on motivation, as long as I've studied it and worked with it, and other leaders have worked with me, and people that I bought into. I'll take somebody that I respect, and I'll see something, and I'll take something about the way they operate, and I'll put it in here because I like that. That particular quality attracts me. It could be such a little thing. It could be putting a pen in your pocket. I got that from Larry Hubbs. I never had a pen in my pocket until I saw that assistant manager, and it was always there whenever you needed. So from anytime I have a pocket here, there's always a pen in it, even today in church. So and it just becomes a part of you. So a good manager, and as far as motivating is concerned, I can't motivate you. I can't motivate you. I can motivate me. All I can do as a team leader is to set the tone or create the atmosphere to help people motivate themselves. They're the ones that can motivate them. Motivate means to move in a desired direction, either mentally, physically, or emotional, or all of the above. That is what motivation means. And you have to give people a reason to do that. And part of the reason is, if you're on a team at Chipotle, if you're on a team at Kentucky Fried Chicken, the Dallas Cowboys, the Steelers, the Eagles, is people want to become part of a good team. The United States Marine Corps never had to draft. They always needed a few good men. They start right from the bottom, what people hear. Uncle Sam needs you, boy. We need a few good men. Are you good enough? And he's going to convince himself that he is. And once he gets in there, and if he makes it, he is. And he convinced himself of that. Everybody carry your part. Because now you're getting shot at. You're not playing football. This is another whole game altogether. And you better be good. That's why people coming out of the military do very, very well in other areas of our society because of the discipline. Or they come from a military family, And I could never, ever motivate people. And for leadership, you take a piece of string. You take a piece of string on the table and you push it. You see the way it bunches up? I'm leading from behind. I'm going to lead from ahead. Watch the string pull out straight, and everybody follows. You lead from up front. Okay, so I don't believe in that. You lead from the bottom. I believe you lead from the top. General George Patton sat on the lead tank. He stuck his head out of that lead tank. He had a license plate light, big red one with 3 gold stars on it. Here comes the Third Army. Here comes George Patton. Bring it on. And he led. And you saw what the man did. His results are just astronomical. Dick Vermeil. We're going to rally around Kurt Warner, and we're going to play good football. This was a message not only to the fans, this was a message to the players. Dick Vermeil's in the Hall of Fame because when he took over the Eagles, there was a guy on the O-line. He was a very good O-line guy. But he wasn't giving out the best. He showed up. And he was very good at what he did. Okay. He allowed 0 sacks. But he wasn't as good as he could be. Dick Vermeil talked to him. He said, Stan, I've seen your films. I'm watching what you do. You want to be in the Hall of Fame? If you're not in the Hall of Fame, get on a bus. You're a lot better than what you put out on that field. You know where you got to be where you need to be. If you're not there, okay, the next game will find you on a bus going somewhere else. Stan Walters played the next 12 seasons for the Philadelphia Eagles and made All-Pro 12 consecutive seasons. That's what motivated Stan. It's just a little bit, and who motivated Stan? He did. Dick Vermeil called him on his shit. Okay, you can do a lot better than what you're doing. So Dick Vermeil set the tone and created the atmosphere for Stan to get off his duff and be great at what he did. That's why Dick Vermeil's in the Hall of Fame, and that's what the leader does. Yeah. The leader leads from out front, and he leads from the top. He leads by example. And that's why Dick Vermeil's in the Hall of Fame, and he definitely should be. Bill Belichick is going to be there one day because he did the same thing he had different people every year.
Yeah, but he
did.
Bill Belichick is like a real prick, though. Like
so was Jimmy Johnson.
Sometimes not. Yeah. Chuck Noll. Chuck Noll is, 4-time Super Bowl champion. Perennial. They ruled the 70s, and everybody tell you he was a dick.
Yeah,
he was a dick to his.
Even like
Bill Parcells. He was Phil Simms, his quarterback. Will tell you he's the greatest coach ever, and I hated him. Sometimes you gotta be what works.
Yeah,
that's true.
Jimmy Johnson's kicker came to him one time, and there was a story of Jimmy Johnson, and he was on a boat trying to catch fish with Troy Aikman, and there was another head coach on there, and he said, He said, I had a kicker come to me one time. I don't know what's the matter with me, coach. He says, I'm really having a bad practice here. I missed 2 field goals, and I think that I'm losing some confidence. He says, well, go in the office in the file cam. They're under C. Confidence is under C. There's nothing in there for you to grab. You get on the bus and get the hell out of here. I can't teach you how to kick. You know what I need? Either do it or get on the bus. He did it. That's what motivated him. No. Jimmy Johnson didn't motivate him. He said the key words so that man could motivate himself.
Yeah.
I think the best example of that is, and he had great results. He's loved by all the fans that he ever coached for, was Buddy Ryan.
Yeah.
You know, he had Chris Carter. Chris Carter for the Eagles was a phenomenal wide receiver. He was the greatest. He was the best player they had. And he caught him.
Drugs.
Because of drugs. Because he knew he had to do something to get him to motivate himself.
Yes.
And Chris Carter will tell you it was the hardest thing he ever did.
Yep.
But he thanks Buddy Ryan to this day for doing it because it saved his career and it saved his life.
Because it was him and Moss, and he stayed. And Moss said that Chris Carter was my mentor, and he gives Chris Carter, who's in the Hall of Fame now, okay, and much of it is because of the leadership of somebody who didn't even lead him, and that was Buddy Ryan.
Yeah,
that's it. Leadership is an amazing thing. There's a whole bunch of intangibles in leadership as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I took over a store that was failing the Board of Health, and they were going to close it down, and the Labor Department come in. There was no working papers for the miners. My first day there was absolutely awful. We were breeding roaches, breeding rodents.
Yum.
Okay, and this was a restaurant. This was in the middle of Elizabeth, New Jersey.
table for 2.
But
I'll go there.
But the crew stayed. And I met them. Maybe a week before I was going to be there, I knew I was coming there. So I stopped in and I met the night crew during the night. And I met the weekend night crew. I met the weekend day crew. You know, and I met the day crew, you know, and I was just talking to the people. And I'm looking around and I've got my all pencil and a paper, and I always have that, okay? And I'm making notes of my situation analysis and what I have to do. Then I go home, take some of my family time, and I put the priority to this situation. Here's what I'm going to do: 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Well, the health department walked in and messed with my priority list quite a bit.
How dare they?
They said they were going to flunk me. The guy's name was John Sharp. I said, give me till Friday. I'll get a conditional Friday. He said, but I'll stay open. He says, I inspected you in Island, and I inspected you in Route 1 Elizabeth, Rich. He says, I believe you. You got a long way to go. Friday is it. If you don't make conditional, okay, and he was right by the book. Call him tough, call him a prick, whatever you want to, okay. That Friday, I got conditional. And we ripped the walls apart and I bombed the store. We took things out of that store that just weren't working for the store, and I shoved them down in the creek into the river and all of this stuff.
I think the statute of limitations may have expired on those, thank goodness.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if we should be putting
ripped
this
the
out.
dumpster apart and everything, painted it and all of this stuff. And when John Sharp came back on Friday, he says, you earned a conditional. I don't even think I was home yet. You know, you can even talk to Janet upstairs. I think I came home to take a nap, and I went back in again. And it was terrible. When we bombed the store, I left a broom and a dry vac up front. When I opened the door, there was a carpet of roaches going from one end to the store to the next on the tabletops. And all the ceiling, I took the ceiling out and stood the ceiling tiles on end. They all fell out of the ceiling, right? And I had a super sucker about this big, as we call it, a dry vac, right? It's about this high.
Super Sucker 9000.
I filled 23 of those with roaches. I had to close the store for the day. I could not open.
Man, I'm hungry.
I'm going to get something to eat after this.
I dumped these things in the dumpster. We worked our tail off. Got new marlite in, got new ceiling tiles in, and everything. Just a construction crew came in there. I got a hold of the area manager. I got a hold of construction. This is what I need. Okay, and they responded. And I responded, and my team responded. Nobody left.
Wow.
We got them all brand new uniforms and new name tags, and I didn't like them. Nice pressed uniforms. And that Friday, when the Board of Health came around, we were shining. The copper was shining underneath the sinks. We polished everything you could see and in back of it. In the ranges, there was no grease on the ranges whatsoever. I sent them all out, had them bathed, bathed, put all new parts in. We worked our ass off in this place. And John Sharp came in and he passed us. He said, I'll be back next Wednesday to inspect you again. And we got a conditional, okay? And Wednesday we got an exceptional, which isn't a white certificate. It's a gold decollaged certificate. And he hung it in the window. And we kept that thing.
Got the gold star, and you hung it on. Mom and Dad hung it on the fridge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
2 years later, I was renting out my crew chiefs to run other stores in the area that were short on management. They got so strong as a team that they wanted to be team leaders, that they wanted to be managers. They wanted my job. And I said, fine. I said, if you can have my job, all you can do is push me up. You can't push me out. And that was how I looked at it. And they became a motivated group of people. And I just loved every one of them. Okay, I got rid of a couple of assistant managers that were duds. They weren't doing the job. And, yeah, we changed an awful lot in the store. But other employees saw this. That team motivated itself because of what I did to the store, and to the surroundings and the environment and to the product and that the people were getting. And that store became number one in sales growth, and number one in profit. And hands down, all of my assistant managers made store manager, okay? And my crew chiefs went to college, and they came back if they wanted to as management trainees. But they were every one of them were leaders in their own way. And I was there for 2.5 years, and I would do that again. That they responded to leadership, out front leadership. We don't need this wall. It's full of roaches. Take it down, throw it the hell out, drag it out in the parking lot. We brought in the 5-pound or 20-pound sledgehammers and took that wall out of there. We did things then quickly now, to improve the conditions and all, and they responded. And better people came to the store. Better quality people came to the store to apply for jobs. I got nobody walking in the store like this here. Steve Trupo told me about Tommy Huff, and I said, get him. Right, 6'9", 11th grade kid out of Union High School. As soon as he walked in the store, and I said, here's your promise of employment. Go get your working papers and come back. I got a schedule for you. Okay. And that was that. He says, I got a couple of really sharp young ladies. Bring them. Okay. We're rebuilding a crew here. And people didn't want to respond. Well, they went somewhere else. And what did Vince Lombardi say to the Green Bay Packers when he took them over? We're going to be in first place at the end of this year, with or without you, with or without the people that are in this room. We're going to be in first place. Where do you want to be? And that's all he had to say.
I think there was a bit more to it than that. I mean, you can say what you want to say, but like when you walked into that store,
you had to
you put action in motion. You started to do something, and you got noticed by the crew.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Oh, he's going that way with it."
Yeah,
and they went that way with it. You can on the flip side of this, you can take a guy who was successful everywhere he's been, named Urban Meyer, and you can drop him in an NFL franchise, and he can say all the things he says, all the right things, but his actions say something different.
Oh, yeah.
And you lose a team.
Well, that's a phony. You got to be consistent with what you say.
And exactly. You have to set the example. You set the bar where you want it set and bring people to it.
Yeah.
But if you're setting the bar here for everyone else, and you're down here, no one's crossing that bar because no one's going to go any higher than you.
That's a phony baloney. Deion Sanders. Ain't nobody likes this guy. But he talks the talk and he walks the walk. You like him, you got to respect him. I mean, I know I was never crazy about the guy, okay, but I always said he not only talked, but he walked. And he was the best CB that ever set foot on the field.
Yeah.
And he told you that, and he did that. You can't deny stuff like this. And I heard that he's a college coach now.
Yeah.
He said, I would never coach professional football, and my ears perked up. And he simply said, there are too many people in professional football that are along for the ride. And I can't. That turns me off. I wouldn't have anybody on the field. He said, I'd have half the people on the field. But if I got 6 that want to be there, then that's better than the other 5 that don't, or just along for the ride. I could never just, that's what he says. He said, they pay people handsomely to play professional football. The least they could do is earn their pay. He says in college, everybody wants to be a pro. Everybody wants to be the best. You're working with self-motivated people. Not everybody makes it, but they want to make it. The spirit and the desire is there. He says, I love this atmosphere. The camaraderie is there, and they just love this stuff. They eat it up. The cheerleaders, the band, the majorette, it's all part of the camaraderie of the college, and it's just, you could be a Grambling, you could be a Morgan State, Penn State, or Michigan. It doesn't matter. It's all there, and it all plays a part. He says, I love coaching college football. I'll never coach anything else. And there's not many college football coaches came out of there and did well. Pete Carroll, okay, he did well with the Seattle Seahawks. He didn't do well when he first came out, and he went back. And he got in trouble with paying players that got out of there, got out of Dodge, and came back to the Seahawks and did well with the Seahawks. And the other one was Dick Vermeil. He did well coming out of Stanford, and into the professional ranks. He did very well, okay. People liked what they saw. Call it whatever it is. A frontline supervisor, like a coach or a manager, has to know the job of everybody that reports to them, including your assistant coaches or assistant managers, including your employees or your team players. They have to know every nuance of every job because they have to teach it. At one time or other, they played it. At one time or other, they didn't play it as good as some of the players that are on the field that they're coaching. Okay, but they all have the ability to teach. Discipline comes from the word disciple. It means to teach. And it has 2 parts. As a compliment or reward for a job that's well done, which is incredibly important. You're showing the good people, you're showing everybody else the direction you want them to take by rewarding good behavior. And you either adjust poor behavior or replace it. Okay, adjustment always comes first, and it comes right back to teaching. Adjusting poor behavior is teaching. The difference between what they are doing and what they should be doing. This is your job to teach that gap. And some people do it really well. Chuck Noll, the Perex, and the Dick Vermeil, and the Jimmy Johnson, and the Donnie Shules, and the Bill Belichick. And some people do it really, really well. And some people just miss out. Okay. We're looking at John McVay. Just putting that together out there, putting the pieces together, and hopefully they blend. And is Aaron Donald really quitting?
No.
He just signed a big extension.
Yeah, he's coming back.
I read that on Instagram and I said, no. I commented, no way, capital letters.
I can't believe you bought a house for $22,000. I'm still stuck on that.
You can't wrap your head around that.
My brain is like on the ceiling right now.
The home of the month. Because I knew that I couldn't spend a lot of time fixing this thing. I wasn't going to buy a corn shed.
Yeah.
So this home was tight, had brand new copper tubing, aluminum siding, and a roof, and a brand new kitchen, and it had a John downstairs with a shower downstairs in the shop room, and I had my own garage, and I had my own driveway, and I had a 2.5-story house. And it was just what I need to put 4 children in there Well, they weren't 4 children yet. There's only 2.
2.5.
2 with 1
Yeah. Becky was 9 months old. Yeah. When we moved into that house in Roselle.
Do you want to? We'll just do quick fire, some just quick stuff, and then we'll wrap this up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So these are just some things around the league that I heard. I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on. The Tampa Bay center, Ryan Jensen, potentially lost for the season after an injury at training camp. Ryan Jensen was I think he was all pro bowler last year.
Eagles?
No, Tampa Bay.
Oh.
The Buccaneers, yeah. So Tom Brady is losing his center. And then obviously I think Tom is out for this preseason game and the next one, I think, for personal reasons, whatever
He's
that
doing
is.
some personal stuff.
Yeah, so he's going to be out from that. So how do you think that impacts the season? I think it's probably going to impact it, but in my opinion, the pass rushers now, or everyone's invested in edge rushers. They have 2 really good tackles, Donovan Smith and Tristan Wirfs, who is probably the best young tackle I feel outside of maybe Jordan Mailata, and Rashawn Slater as well. But I don't know. I think it's all right. I think they have Shaq Mason now from the Patriots. So the center is kind of going to be he's more so cerebral than he is like physical, right? In my opinion, but I don't think it's going to have a huge impact on Tom Brady.
It probably won't have that great an impact on Tom.
Yeah.
But the problem is going to be is now you have your backup, and he's not like they're taking somebody off the street. He's played center before, so he knows.
Yeah.
But you're bringing in a new guy, and he's not practicing with the guy he's going to be playing with starting in the year.
Yeah.
So the person who the quarterback's having the most contact with is not the running back. It's not the wide receivers. It's the center. And it all starts with the exchange. Yeah. And something that simple, you can do it a million times, and that's great. But if you don't do it right, it starts there. Yeah. It starts there. He's the center of the line. He's the center. Everything starts with the center. Yeah. So, they have a backup. Yes, he knows the system. That's great. But I think he really should be working with Tom. He should be working with QB1. Whoever it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it's going to take, and it might not affect them that much. They might look rusty. You probably won't even notice it. There'll be, little hiccups here and there that you'll see. But I think for it to be clean, they should be using these 2 games for preseason to get it down. Now, if Tom's not in there, now you're doing these things during the regular season that, it can make or break. But is it going to affect them? Yeah, probably not for the long term. If they bring in somebody brand new, doesn't know the line, doesn't know that could be the issue. But if you're bringing somebody up, it shouldn't be that big of a hiccup. But he really should be practicing with the guy he's going to be doing the exchange with.
Yeah, again, those reps in.
And I hope we keep our backup center Juergens. This guy's exceptional.
He's a rookie. We just drafted him. Yeah.
Well, you guys need him because you're going to be he's going to be center 1 next year.
Next year.
Run blocking, pass blocking, long snap. This guy does it all.
It's phenomenal.
This guy's phenomenal. Did you ever see a pulling center? This guy can do that. I never saw a pulling center. Right. Yeah. Watch this guy play. He was a standout. Yeah. Him and Gowan, cornerback Gowan. My 2 standouts from the Eagles depth chart for the game Friday night. So these 2 guys, and Gowan had a pick 6, and I was very impressed with that. This guy was on it, and he also had several bat downs. They stayed away from Gowan all night long. Yeah. Anytime they got to Gowan, he picked it or he batted it down, and he did not draw 1 penalty. Yeah. He's going to be this guy's going to name Sanders II. This guy's going to be good, this Gowan.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and so Dallas, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier. James Washington fractured his foot. He's out 6 to 10 weeks. Was a former Steeler. And now, what does this do for Dallas? Because Dallas, arguably the wide receiving core was their strength last year. CeeDee Lamb. They had Amari Cooper, they had Michael Gallup, they had Dalton Schultz, they had a bunch of different guys. Now it's just CD and company. You don't have Cedric Wilson anymore. They don't have Amari. They now don't have James Washington, who I think they brought in to be that kind of route running Amari type. Is that what's kind of his forte, like route running and stuff like that?
Yeah, he wasn't ever wide receiver one. He was more the slot kind of thing,
like a route guy.
Yeah.
So then that kind of throws now Dallas is looking for wide receivers, right? Dallas is looking for it's CeeDee Lamb now. Michael Gallup's banged up. Cedric Wilson's obviously gone. Amari Cooper's gone, and now you lose James Washington. So now it's CeeDee Lamb or bust at this point.
Well, I got Dallas for 9-8, and that was not with these recent injuries. I got the Eagles 11-6 if their first team stays healthy.
Yeah,
this is all things being equal. 17 games, really? Yeah. Okay. Washington 6-11, New York 5-12. That's what I got.
I have New York 3 and I don't know however many 14.
Oh, okay.
Because I think I obviously love Saquon, but I don't know. You can't put like the game on a running back for that long and expect him to be, And I feel bad for him because now it's like
he hasn't played a full season. I mean, I hope he does. I mean, I hope he plays up to his potential, and he can motivate himself to get back to where he was when he was with Penn State.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he can do that.
Yeah, I hope so too. We're all kind of rooting for him.
Same thing with Miles Sanders.
Yeah,
he hasn't played a full season either. I think these two guys were bunkmates.
They were friends. Yeah,
and they have the same disadvantages.
Yeah, it's just when you get those nagging injuries, that you never take care of, and they tend to sort of rear up as like the worst time. So then we got the AJ Brown had a contract dispute with the Titans. So AJ Brown signed what I believe to be he signed for 3 years, $20 million, which if my math is correct, it's about $60 million, right?
With the Eagles?
With the Eagles, yeah. And so he's making $20 million a year. Deebo Samuel just got signed also for $20 million, and I believe the Steelers extended Johnson for $36 million. So that's $12 million a year. So that's not too crazy. But with all these different signings, I think Devontae Adams got a similar thing I think he got like 25, and then Tyreek Hill left and got in around the ballpark of 20, 25 as well. So everyone that left sort of signed this huge contract, and it looks so far to seem as like AJ Brown sort of is on the lower end of the expensive wave of young guys. Devontae Adams isn't really a young guy. Tyreek Hill really isn't a young guy, but AJ Brown is 24. Like this is only his second or third year in the league. Well, so good.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when he got drafted by the Titans, so he was working off his rookie contract, and he performed, wanted to get paid.
Yeah.
Now the whole thing is, now you don't want to set the example of restructuring a rookie contract.
Yeah.
Because that just puts you down a rabbit hole that nobody wants to. I mean, there's enough rabbit holes right now in the NFL. Yeah. They don't need to go down that one. Yeah. So they knew they weren't going to restructure the deal. They weren't going to put up with a year of him doing a hold in, which is now the latest thing. I'll show up for camp. I won't play.
Won't play, yeah.
And so now you're paying him and he's not there and we can't do that. So they had to, it was one of those, they had to cut bait with it. So he plays for 2 years there. Now he signs 3 years with the Eagles, which is basically how long his rookie contract would have been. 4 years with a 5th-year option.
Yeah.
So he's no worse off. Yeah. I mean, he's better off because he's making more money. And I think the Eagles are a better situation for him. Say what you will about Jalen Hurts. Is he the quarterback for the future? Is he not?
We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, that's what this year is all about. This is going to be the defining year for him.
They don't have anybody to take his place, though.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. This year was not the year to cut Jalen Hurts. There wasn't a QB in the pipeline to do it.
Yeah, and not with their pick, not with the current crop of rookies.
Right.
Yeah.
Next year, there's projected to be better quarterbacks in the line. They're set up better pick wise. Multiple picks. They can trade around if they need to. If there's a guy that lights the world on fire and they want to drop into the top 5,
they have 2 first-rounders to do that.
They're in a great position to do it. So you load up Jalen Hurts with wide receiver help. If AJ Brown succeeds, he succeeds with Hurts. We continue on. He succeeds with whoever they bring in the future at the end of his 3-year deal.
Yeah.
It's like Jalen, or it's AJ. We're here. We're set. We're ready to go. You're the key to this. You stick around, we'll pay you a boat ton of money. Mm-hmm. It's a win-win for him. It's and he's in a position where they have other tools that, like we were talking about with the Titans. If he stayed in Tennessee, it was him. It was him as the wide receiver. There was no other option. It was the running back, and Derrick Henry's the running back. Mm-hmm. Now he's in Philadelphia. He's not. He doesn't have to be wide receiver 1.
Yeah,
because there's plenty of guys that can play that role, and that's the versatility that they're going to have. Is they can throw so much different stuff at you.
Yeah,
that now they've really given Hurts the ability of, okay, show us what you got. It's going to be on him.
Yeah.
And they gave him Miles Sanders, who got him, and behind him is Huntley, who played a really good game.
Yeah.
Friday night, and Brooks, kind of like a C+.
Yeah.
My
favorite is
and they let Jordan Howard go. I don't think I would have done that, but Don's done.
Yeah. And another thing that I think the Eagles did that, to your point, talked about like the replacement, is like the Eagles are like a free agent destination now, right? Like what's either, if you are in Miami, if you're in LA, if you're in San Francisco, even Dallas, or whatever, you're either, when you're to be a free agent like destination, you either have good weather like a Miami, LA, right? Like LA is pretty much all the only guy they really drafted was Aaron Donald. Matt Stafford's from another team. Cooper Kupp they drafted. But most of those guys, the core group of those guys, are from other teams, right? Jalen Ramsey. A lot of those guys were free agents or were traded for. So if you either have a big market, New York, LA, Miami, nice weather, guys are more willing to go and play for you if you're in sort of a destination, right? Or you have to be a good team. So last 2 years, Denver Broncos, great offensive line, really good weapons. I think one of the most underrated defenses, Bradley Chubb and guys like that. They were just set up to win. The only thing they were missing was a quarterback, and now they got it with Russell Wilson. The year before that, it was Tampa Bay. They had the same thing. They had a really good offensive line, great weapons, great defense. The only thing they really needed was a quarterback, and Tom Brady filled that role. So I think now, because Philly isn't like a destination where you can go and be like a movie star or like whatever, you need to have a good team, and you need to be in a place that allows that. The NFC East is not like a great division right now. And on top of that, if say it doesn't work out with Jalen, there's going to be a quarterback that's going to be disgruntled. It happens every year. There's going to be a big name guy that's going to be like, I don't like where I'm at. I hate the situation. Maybe even Aaron Rodgers. I don't like where I'm at right now, and I want to go and I want to win. And the Eagles going to say, look who we have. We have A.J. Brown. We have Devontae Smith. We have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, top 5 at least. One of the best defensive lines, and we just added to that with Jordan Davis. We filled a big need at linebacker with Nakobe Dean, who's sort of the hybrid linebacker, and Kaiser White. And we have 2 Pro Bowl corners at each side, right? So now you're starting to look at the NFL, or you're starting to look at the Eagles like, if I want to win now, if I'm sort of, say I have 3 or 4 good, like top-tier years left, I might want to go and play for the Eagles and put them over the edge. Right, if Jalen doesn't work out. So I thought like just acquiring AJ and drafting the way they did, I think Howie set it up great for the future and to be like a destination right now, which is something I've been thinking about a lot leading up to like next season and stuff. And I don't know, I feel good about it. Also, the Browns too were another one like that. Top tier offensive line, great weapons. The defense is kind of up and down, but if you have a good quarterback, you can kind of overcome those things. So. That I really liked the AJ Brown contract and everything because of that. And especially now too, you look at what's going on with to transition to another topic I have here, which is Deebo Samuel in the 49ers. That's like a really sticky situation. I mean, they're going with Trey Lance, who was their rookie they drafted last year, but Jimmy G, they just kind of have him there. Like they signed it to a big $100 million contract. What was it, a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago when he left? And now they're just like, oh, well, we're just going to have to either eat the money when we trade him or try and trade him we have to find a team that's willing to pay him the amount of money that we were paying him because he won, like 5 games towards the end of the season. So
Yeah.
I would rather the Eagles situation right now than deal with the quarterback controversy like we did with Foles and Wentz and then with Hurts and Wentz. I would much rather like have a 1-year prove-it deal with a guy that I actually like and you can actually see if he's that guy. I don't know. Maybe that's my personal feelings on it, but I don't know. Do you feel this? What do you guys think?
Well, Chuck says it's a make or break year for Jalen Hurts, and I agree.
Yeah.
It's on him. He's got all the tools in the box now, and they're all working together, and they're all in spring training, and it's all about Jalen Hurts and his first string team. Okay, getting off to a really good start. So we'll see.
Yeah,
it's on Jalen. I don't know who else is going to be on if he don't make it. Maybe Pittsburgh will cut Picking.
No.
No.
No way.
No way.
You guys, actually, I like your backup, Minshew. I like his
Gardner. Yeah.
Yeah, Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
I like his attitude. I like his his whole thing was he bought a camper in the off season and he parked it behind the gym that he worked out at, and he literally lived in the gym all summer. He like went in, used the bathroom and the shower and all that, and just worked out and just did nothing but work on his game. Yeah,
that was cool.
Minshew's always kind of seen as like that guy who's just a little weird, a little off, and nothing wrong with that.
He probably is, but it's like whatever.
But if he's willing, if he's that invested in it, and he played well. He played well with Jacksonville. He played well, from what I've seen in Philadelphia. Yeah. So I mean, is he the solution for the future? No. But, if it hits the fan in Philadelphia and, Hurts ain't working or Hurts actually gets hurt, you guys aren't in that bad a spot.
Yeah, because he's a guy. Like, I mean, he's like a dude.
He knows how to play. He knows how to win,
Yeah, and I mentioned this earlier, too. I'm a big fan of Carson Strong. I mean, we did a whole draft thing, and I had Carson Strong going in the first round because, I mean, the guy was playing, like, on one leg. Like he was literally playing like on one leg. He had this humongous, like his legs probably like this big, right? And he had like 2 watermelons on either side of his knee just to keep it in place. And he's played through like a reconstructive knee surgery, right? And he was throwing, like he was just in the pocket and he wasn't moving very much, right? But he was in the pocket. I mean, he was throwing darts like everywhere on the field. And he went to Nevada. So they're like, Nevada's not really like a huge, market school. But the dude he was throwing all over the yard on one foot, and he was accurate. He was putting the ball, in tight windows and tight spots. I really liked his tape, and I think that he was probably one of those guys that you talk about like I don't even really like this word, but like arm talent, like a guy that could throw it all over the field. I like him a lot, but again, he's a rookie. It's kind of a long shot to be like, oh, this 6th-round pick guy is going to go off and do anything, even though Tom Brady's the GOAT, but. It's still hard to make that case, but I'm a big fan of Carson Strong, and the more like I kind of watch him, and I really am excited to see him like more in the preseason now that he can actually move his knee and he's mobile. But I do like that. But next year, like you said, I mean the quarterback's draft class is loaded. I mean you got Bryce Young who like just set college football on fire. I mean. I think he threw 61, 62 touchdowns last year for Alabama when they won. Did they win? No, it was Georgia, right?
It was Georgia.
Yeah. So, I mean, the dude, like, who was it?
Wow, that's an all-time collegiate record, isn't it? 62?
Yeah. And it was just set by Joe Burrow, and then 2 years later it was broken by Bryce Young, who, by the way, is born in Philadelphia.
Bryce Young plays for who?
Alabama. He's a college. He's a college football
He's
guy.
still in college.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So the Eagles are probably potentially looking at somebody like that.
Does Alabama have a running game at all?
Yeah, but not like a Derrick Henry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not like
not like a Najee Harris.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
boy.
I love
I
Najee
love
Harris.
Najee Harris.
Yeah.
He was at that charity game we went to, and I think Mom sent a picture. I think it was to Aunt Becky. This fly is like flying all in my face. Do you see this thing?
Yeah, they're gnats and little gnats and mosquitoes. They're coming out now. It's
Yeah, I don't mind because the mosquitoes back at our house are like our front yard turns into like it gets all flooded when it rains. So the seals over. I was
and
like,
they get in front of your face like that.
oh my god, those things.
The gnats,
But yeah, Najee Harris, by the way, humongous human being.
Oh my God, he's gigantic.
He's so big. Like he came over to sign. So we were sitting in probably like the third or fourth row from where the players would come up and sign, right? And I was just to eye level with him. Like he just walked up and like we're elevated and we're 3 up, and I was like looking down at him by like this much. I'm like, why is that guy so big? And then his quads are like human. It's like it's nuts. And then we saw Barrett Brooks, right? And he's another guy that's absolutely humongous. We're like, is this the kind of athlete that you have to be an NFL player? Like, I'm glad.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Like, and we saw, me and Wayne were walking in, we're going to our seats, and Wayne's like, who's that guy over there? Right. And he said over there, like the dude was close. Right. Like you would say, like, who's that? You know? And I look over and it's Dallas Goedert standing in the middle of the field, but he's so big that he makes everything else look small. Right. And like, he's huge. Like you look over at him and you're like, he just looks big. And we're all the way up here. It's like, oh, it's kind of wild. Like I would never assume, because like sometimes you see people like Messi, like Lionel Messi. You're like, that guy's like 5'4". You're like, yeah, I mean he's just good, but he's like 5'4". He's like my height. I'm like, oh my god, this guy's Lionel Messi. But then you meet like, Dallas Goedert, and the dude's hitting softballs out of Coca-Cola Park, not like an in, like hits the stands and bounces around. He's hitting him by the jumbotron out of the park. I'm like, that's what you have to deal with. That's the person that you have to try and tackle when he's running full speed down. No way. No way. It's crazy. But yeah, Najee Harris is cool. And then there was a kid that had a sign that said Najee Harris is #1 fan is here today, and he went over and he signed it. He's the man. I love Najee.
I missed it. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I love Najee. He's the man. He's really
Charlie
cool.
Toller, the old running back for 5'6", 200-pounder for the old San Diego Chargers back in the 60s.
Yeah.
But he only lasted about 4 years. He got that shit kicked out of him.
Yeah. Do you remember we were talking about
He
Sam
did not
Mills?
last.
Remember we were talking about Sam Mills?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
You know he's in the Hall of Fame?
Linebacker Sam Mills. Oh my God, he was a beast.
Yeah, 5'9".
Oh yeah.
He was a junkyard dog, man. I
Keep
like Sam.
pounding, yeah. I didn't know that's where the Panthers got their slogan from.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, that was him.
Oh, he
That's
played for
crazy.
the...
Yeah, when he played for the Saints, like it was him and the names are falling out of my head, but like they had a linebacking core that was the 3 linebackers they had would probably be equal to just about any linebacking core ever.
Yeah.
They were outstanding. But it was the Saints at the time, so they sucked.
Their ass,
They had Bobby Aber as their quarterback, so they're
the renowned Bobby?
yeah, the world famous Bobby Aber.
Bobby Hebert took over for Archie Manning, I think.
Art, yeah. Jesus.
But yeah, I mean they had a defense. Holy cow!
Yeah.
The decent quarterbacks, but just didn't have a team around them. They had a running back by the name of Mountain McAllister, who ran all over the Eagles in Tulane Stadium.
Deuce McAllister.
They couldn't stop McAllister.
Yeah, Deuce McAllister.
Bill Berge got by Bill Berge. McAllister ran right over him. I said, "Oh no." Yeah.
And then one of the last things before we get out of here, and probably I don't know what this says for Arizona. I'm just kind of indifferent, but 2 things. Number 1 is DeAndre Hopkins is going to miss 6 games for PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs. He's suspended for 6 games. And then on top of that, Kyler Murray signed a $230 or $40 million contract. And in the contract, there was a clause for studying. So you had to study at least 4 hours a day or 4 hours a week.
Why they want to make him smarter?
We'll study film.
Oh,
He has to
study film.
watch
Yeah,
film.
to watch film.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
Yeah.
Real weak in training? Or?
My thought on Kyler Murray was the injury bug was always his thing. I never really got the impression that he wasn't prepared, but somebody in the office, somebody on the coaching staff it must have come up, because that's the only reason why they would put that in there is to question it. But my whole thing that bothers me is, why in the name of the Lord would Murray sign it? Why would his agent have it in there and let him sign that? That's nothing but a PR nightmare, which is why it turned into the storm it did.
Yeah, and you know what? It seems like I don't think that Kyler would have a vetted interest in having this out there, because it makes him look bad.
Yeah.
So what I think it is like, I think number one, he probably doesn't come in prepared, which again is sort of news to us, because he's always been an improviser and he always can kind of just escape using his legs. So maybe there is a kind of preparation thing there, but I thought that kind of came with the package of the improviser quarterback, right? Like I thought that was, like if you're going to get a guy that can run, just like you used to say, if you have horsepower, you're going to use it. Like if I'm sitting on 800 horses, well, I'm gonna go 35 miles an hour right on the highway. Like, no, I'm cranking it up when I get a chance to, and I'm going all out. And so that's kind of the thing is like, even Michael Vick said it. Like Michael Vick was like, when I was in the league, I really didn't prepare as well as I should have prepared, because I had my get out of jail free card. I was so athletic, I could just make people look stupid, right? And it's not everyone. You have guys like Rodgers, who came in, who studied. I think Lamar is one of those guys that is very cerebral with the game. He's gonna be a film room addict. Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, a lot of guys can do that. Can come in and be cerebral in how they play the game. But if you're an improviser, you're going to use that. You're going to use sort of your
but
abilities.
You're watching films for more than 4 hours a week anyway. Between games, you're either practicing your own films.
Well, and that's the thought, that maybe he's not. Maybe that's why they had to put it in writing in a contract, because he's not.
So he could be better prepared. So they pay a boatload of money for a guy who doesn't prepare himself.
And maybe that's the thing. Maybe, like Jason was saying, that, he's got the pure ability that he can improvise and all that. But how long of a shelf life does that have?
Yeah.
And he's got the potential to be this much better. So the coaching staff is like, okay, or management is like, okay, if he hones his game more, he can be this, and he won't, his career will be longer. It'll be better. It'll be more successful kind of thing.
Is it guaranteed, or is it incentives?
The clause in the contract, you would think it'd be like any other clause in the contract. You have to do it or you void the contract.
Okay, but
they've since removed it.
But there's so much guaranteed.
Yeah, and nowadays I'm sure a lot of it was guaranteed. Just
$24 million a year is guaranteed.
Something like that.
You can thank you can thank the dummy in Cleveland for that one.
Well, the age-old principle that effort equals reward, no effort, no reward, lots of effort, lots of reward, is being violated here. You don't give the reward first and expect the effort. It's like you said, shelf life. It's the same thing. No. Effort equals reward. Never, ever violate that. You pay the plumber after the job is done, not before. And it's the same thing when anybody else has got a job to do. And wow, to violate that, if all that money is guaranteed, the Cardinals ain't going anywhere. Is it we talking about the Cardinals here?
Cardinals, yeah. And
Cardinals aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, and on top of that, they're missing their number one wide receiver.
Yeah, now he doesn't have to work for it.
Yeah.
Because it's reward before effort. Really? Yeah. I disagree with that at all. And it should all be contingent upon, you get $5 million this year, man. And then if this and if and if and if and if and if and if and if, checkpoints along the way. And what is it, 11-6, you're going to get so much money, so many touchdowns in this. And you just add these things on there. These are all worth money to you. You give us, the white walls and the cruise control and the GPS and all the other additives that go along with it. And we're going to pay you for that after we get the performance. That's the only way it can be. It's the only way it works.
Well, for him, he has been performing. The injuries have really held him back.
Okay.
He's been performing. He's proved. I can kind of say he's outplayed the contract he was on. I think it's a little early to be giving him the extension because he hasn't gotten them to that next point.
Yeah.
You know, he's close. He's, like you were saying earlier, he's gotten them. They're there. Yeah. You know, but I think they would have been better suited to do a year of healthy play.
Yeah.
Get us to that next stage. We're not asking you to win a playoff game. We're not asking you to win the Super Bowl. Get us to there. You know, you've proven you can get us a winning record.
Yeah.
Great. Win the division.
Yeah.
Get us in the playoffs. Show me the progress. You know, he's been showing the progress, but I think at this point he's gotten to a point and he's not really pushing it. And his thing is, I can get you there, and I want my money. And they're to the point of they think he can get them there, and they don't want to risk losing him. You know, so they threw him the money. I think they threw it a year. I think they threw it a year early.
Yeah, and another thing too,
because he's not there. It's oh man, I'm just just violates everything, and then basic principle of performance: effort equals reward.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I mean, with the quarterbacks now, you know, because now they're all structured contracts. You know, your contract is based on where you're drafted. Has nothing to do with your ability.
Holy shit!
You know, you get a 4-year contract with a 5th-year option, and based on where you are drafted, this is what your contract is. So you can have a quarterback who might be the best quarterback. He's the greatest quarterback ever to come out in college, but because he didn't get drafted with the first pick, because they didn't need a quarterback. The first team that needed a quarterback doesn't pick till like 8, so he doesn't go till 8. So but he's deserving of the first pick, but his contract puts him at 8. So he's already underpaid in his mind, and in a lot of people's mind.
And according
so
to
when
this
he goes out,
table, so you got Tom Brady, got $100,000 for his first year.
At least minimum, whatever that was.
Dan Marino would have, because he fell in the draft. Now this is back in the days when you negotiated your contract. He got paid. Yeah. He got paid a boat ton.
Yeah.
So Dan Marino, if the contract structures were then the way they are now, he would have not been paid like a top 5 pick. He would have been paid like someone who fell into the 20s.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously the way he played, you know, 2-3 years into his contract, he would have been massively underpaid.
Yeah, he lost the Super Bowl in his rookie year. Damn,
yeah. And that's kind of where Murray is. You know, he didn't have the ability to negotiate his rookie contract. So what he did was he played and showed results, and now he's saying, "Okay, I've shown you I'm better than this contract. Pay me."
Okay.
I think the Cardinals bid a year too soon. I think they should have. Okay, yes, you've shown progress. You're a winning record.
Yeah,
you're this and this. This is the hill we want you to climb before we give it to you.
Right.
You know, but because of his injuries or whatever is why Murray was forced the issue, you know, and then it left it up to, okay, I think this would have been his 3rd year going in. So next year would have been his 4th year, and then you get into the option year. So, you know, I think that, like I said, they probably would have been better for it to be next year, but they were afraid. So they bent.
Yeah,
they were afraid to lose them.
Yeah, or another example to your point of the money is Laramie Tunsil. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a tackle, and he was like one of the best tackles to come out of college, out of Mississippi, in I think like up until the point maybe 5-6 years. One of the best tackle prospects, and then a video came out with him, like I think it was like smoking weed through like one of those. It was like a gas mask.
Yep.
Yeah, and he went from being a consensus top 5, top 3 pick to falling to like 25 or something like that. And I think in all he lost like $15 million because consensus top 3. I think the top 3 picks get like the same amount of money, and then it drops off.
I saw him smoking pot.
Yeah, because a video came out of him. So like the top 3 make a similar amount of money than maybe the next 3 or 4, it drops off, and then it drops off again.
You know, you do that kind of stuff when you're creating a bargain for the team that drafted you. Yeah. If they can get you for $15 million less, they'll do it.
Yeah.
So they're looking for stuff like this.
Yeah, and he was a good player when I think he still is pretty solid. He's like a solid tackle prospect, or a solid tackle in the league rather. But no, maybe it was kind of a gift and a curse. I mean, it's never a gift to lose $15 million. But in the broad scheme of it, like he's like a solid tackle. It reminds me of like a Taylor Lewan or something like that. He's just a guy that is really good at his job. He's going to protect you, but he's going to give up maybe a sack or two, you know, when at the inopportune time kind of thing. But he's a good player. But is he top 3 in the league like he was prospected to be? No, he's probably somewhere in the middle of the pack, which is still good, but you know, not where he was projected. But yeah, I don't know. I think the Cardinals, and another thing to the point of the Cardinals is Cliff Kingsbury. Like if you look at his in college, his teams had a tendency to start hot, and then it would die off towards the end. Like I mean, Cliff Kingsbury coached Patrick Mahomes, you know, and he wasn't able to like really do anything with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes was throwing 9 touchdowns in the game against Baker Mayfield in Oklahoma. Then he's lighting up the league, right, or lighting up college football, and Cliff Kingsbury just couldn't do anything with that, you know. So it's like you look at what he became and what he got. He got a good coach, and look at how he grew, and then now it's like, is Cliff? Can he take another step as a coach? Can he, you know, look around the league and say, hey, maybe this air raid system is working, but maybe I should have a nice run game or run by committee, or you know, I should maybe be designing more things or calling more things or trusting my defensive coordinators to give me tough situations that I have to think through and work through. So I mean, I like Kyler. I think like you said, he's like right there, but I also think that my bad, I keep pulling on the little thing there. But I also think that Cliff Kingsbury can kind of make it a little bit easier on him. As well as we were talking about, oh my God, Pete Carroll. And the big reason why I think Russell Wilson left is Pete Carroll wanted to run the ball. You know, Pete Carroll wanted to run the ball 35 times a game as if he didn't have Russell Wilson, you know. And I think that's a good recipe to win, like, you know, 20 years ago. But now if you want to, it's almost reverted. You know, now you want to do the sort of running back by committee, and then you want to throw off of the play action, and you want to keep throwing and throwing and throwing. And Pete Carroll just wouldn't do that. He was a defense, run the ball first kind of guy, which is why I think Russell Wilson left, and I'm seeing that a little bit with Kyler Murray and Cliff.
According to the Eagles analysts, and it says Joyner and Barrett Brooks, and they feel that you should run the ball 30 times a game. You know, and if Eagles don't run the ball 30 times a game, they're not going to win it. But
yeah, well, I mean that's the
this
Eagles.
Year. Look what they did. You know, they have a good running back core with Sanders and Huntley. And maybe Brooks if he makes the team.
Yeah.
Okay, from what I've seen. Okay.
We have Kenny Gainwell too.
Yeah, but it looks like he's gearing up for an air ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you kind of have to do that this year, right? Like you have to air it out to see if Jalen Hurts is going to be your guy, right? Because that's the way the league's going. You know, Tom Brady. I mean, and
every defense out there knows this now.
Yeah, and so you have to have a quarterback. Like the earlier you expose him to that, then, you know, which is what the argument was. I was actually listening to, I saw a Steelers guy talking about this. He said, like, you want to expose Kenny Pickett to as much of the hard stuff as possible early on, because as he grows and as he gets better, he's going to be able to diagnose that stuff a lot quicker, and he's going to catch on to the new age. And I think that the Eagles kind of have to do that with Jalen Hurts. Like they made it a little bit easier on him last year, where it was very even. It was a 60-40 split in favor of the passing game at the beginning of the season. Then it was 60-40 in favor of the running game. So they didn't tweak it that much. Like it was sort of 20% in either direction.
And when they ran, they won.
Yeah. And so I think you have to sort of go and throw the ball and see if Jalen's going to be your guy. Yeah. I think you're going to have to do that.
You're going to do that, and you're going to leave Miles Sanders in the backfield, even during pass plays, as a decoy. You take him out, they're going to throw.
Yeah.
You put him in, they're going to run. Man, you can't telegraph that and expect Jalen to do the job. So I hope this comes up in the meetings.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, and I think that Nick Sirianni, at least one of the things that I like coming out of the Eagles camp was last year. Like you can go back to the Eagles pod I was doing last year, and I talked about the penalties through the first 6 games. The Eagles were the most penalized team, holding, illegal block in the back, just playing not disciplined.
Yeah, the 15-yarders.
Yeah, they were just not playing disciplined ball. And to Sirianni's credit, when it came down to the nitty-gritty parts of, when you're going and playing the Broncos and you're going and playing these teams that are sort of on the cusp of being good, not a lot of penalties. Guys were squared away middle of the season, towards the end of the season, into the playoff games. The guys got squared away. They were able to, they said they cut down on the penalties, they played disciplined. And I had to tip my hat at that, and that's something to build on going into next season.
And Nick Sirianni, he went fourth down plays, and he got 4 out of 5 fourth down plays.
Yeah.
So he's working on his fourth down plays.
Yeah.
What he needs to do, he's got to work on 10 seconds to go in the half. Okay. Eagles got the ball on the kickoff.
That close.
They're on the 40-yard line. Okay, and Minshew comes in and takes a knee. There's 2 plays.
Yeah.
What makes you think you're going to win this game?
Yeah.
That's 2 plays. I goes, oh, Nick, you haven't improved that from last year. I mean, I like the 4 out of 5 fourth downs. That was
that was good.
Pretty good. That was ballsy. They're working on that. But don't give plays away, man. You never know what's going to happen in a play. The cornerback's going to fall down and leave the guy standing out there to catch a touchdown pass. You never know. You'll never know until you play the play.
Yeah.
That's 2 plays. Anyway, I'm done.
I agree. All right. Is that everything?
I'm good.
All right.
I'm good.
Cool. All right. Well,
thank you.
No problem. Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you guys for being on here, taking time out of your day.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for helping me set up everything and buying the gun.
God bless. God bless everybody out there. Be well. Be safe.
Yep. Thank you guys for listening. This has been the Fly Equals Fly Pod. Thank you, Uncle Chucky. Thank you, Pop. Zach, we need to get you back on whenever you're back in this region. We need to get you back on.
I do like Zachary's read on a few things.
Yeah.
As well as his dad.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. All right. Well, see you guys next week. See you.